Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Lost Lieutenant, the first in 2024. I'm your host, Jacob, and I'm joined by...
Nick?
And Josh.
Hey, we got it this time. And today's episode is going to be a review of Josh and I's experience during Cancon. We'll dazzle everybody with our stellar performances, placing, I think it was 29th and...
19th for me.
Oh, fuck. I don't even know what I'm doing on this episode at this point. Out of about 50 players, I think it was. So, hey, at least you got the top half. With Nick probably going to be almost interviewing us at this point because you had a nice trip back home, I suppose, back to the US.
Yeah. While the two of them attended CanCon, I was overseas getting married. So
Oh,
I do not have
congratulations.
CanCon stories. I just, yeah.
But before we get into, I suppose, our main segments, community announcements, all that sort of normal things, I wanted to take a quick moment to talk about something special that we got from CB. We got an early copy of REM Racer, so I took that to CanCon to have a couple of games with the guys up there. So we had a full 5-player game with some of my buddies from CanCon, including Josh. And I don't necessarily think that the guys who developed it expected it necessarily to be played the way we did, which was aggressive from the very start. So I suppose a bit of review of how our game went as the person who happened to be podium 2, I think. It wasn't you, it was Ryan had the mine launcher, and so the very first thing he did was drop a mine in front of the third podium place. And so it was a very aggressive game of bumper cars where I even think in the first corner where there was purposeful rammings.
Yeah, I think we should probably have a chat about how REM Racers is played. So everyone gets a little REM. They have their own racer, which is their little pilot, which is randomly generated, and they all have special powers. Then you take turns moving along the track using semi-predetermined paths using that relate to the speed that you're currently going. So at speed 1, you have you're able to turn really sharply, but you're not able to go a long distance. Speed 2 gets a little bit better in terms of distance, worse instead of curvature. They also have this sort of chicane thing.
Yeah, speed 2 has like some of the more complicated movements that you can do.
Yeah, 3 has the like hairpin turn where you go really hard and then like sort of drift around a corner, and then 4 is just like I go fast and I don't care about turning at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, we played a game that I think got very slowed down by the fact that we just wanted to hurt each other a lot.
Oh yeah, man.
And because we wanted to hurt each other, did Hector end up winning with the Eugene?
No, Ryan did.
Hector almost got there with the Eugene Rem and Eugene Pilot, but was foiled at the last second by Ryan speeding forward and taking away the win. It's a fun game. I think it's more designed to be not played by a bunch of
hooligans,
by five adult men having a few drinks and playing the game with each other. Maybe it's more geared towards family time. But I can see it being it can be fun.
Yeah.
It's not competitive.
Yeah.
But
And
that's okay.
if you want to sort of like, I guess sort of how it plays, especially when we got sort of to the later half of our game, is it plays very much like Mario Kart. Your sort of objective is really just to get out of the pack, because that's where all the shenanigans are happening. Once you're out of the pack, you're able to change your speed and like sort of just drive and try and win. While if you're with everybody, you're running into everyone's mines and oil slicks and getting nanopulsed and flamethrowered and hacked and all these sorts of things. There were certainly some very powerful combinations. So the REMs are each slightly different, with the Yujing one being a little bit more armored and the Pano one being a better shot. Less armored. The rest are sort of in the middle as far as how well they shoot and how much armor, and they've also got like a BTS or like it's called biotechnical protection, but it's the same sort of concept as BTS. But some of the combinations between them and the pilots can be pretty damn nasty. I mean, I remember I had the Pano tag, which is the weakest tag, but my pilot. Sorry,
Rem.
I keep calling them tags. Ugh! I had the REM that was the weakest, but it was the best shot. But my pilot was the Toha pilot, which meant that I could negate one wound every time I took one, which meant that I had this really good REM as far as shooting goes, and it was still actually really, really tough. But we found that the person who had our Yujing REM also had one of the Yujing pilot. So not only was it really tough, but if it died, it got to do a full move forward, which was almost gave them the win. I think the most interesting one, I think the person that used their ability the most actually was you, Josh, because you had the JSA pilot, I think, because they had a Japanese name, and she gets to. So the way REM Racer works is when you pick up the path that you're going to drive in, once you put it in front of your REM, that's the path you take. There's no take backsies, except if you have the pilot that Josh had, which is before she moves, she can change the
path.
the path the path that she uses. I think you use that constantly. You're like, oh no, that's gonna run me into the wall.
I use it I think I use it almost every turn.
Yeah, because you could be like really risky with it and be like, oh no, that's not gonna work. I don't want to hit that. I'll just take something else. For the most part, I think it was pretty self-explanatory. Everything. The only thing that we came up against was Otto's power, Big Brother. We weren't sure whether every person's so the power he has is he can take your equipment that you're using and use it himself. We weren't sure if he could do that every round, so every cycle between all the players, or every player's turn. And the only other one we found interesting was some cards say that you make a move after another player makes a move. And if you're dead, we still didn't quite figure out whether you could use those to resurrect yourself early. But I don't know. I actually had a lot of fun playing it.
Oh yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Yeah. I don't think, yeah, like we said at the beginning, I don't think it's necessarily designed for 5 blokes that just want to beat each other's heads in. We were sort of playing it like we were playing a game of Infinity. And so every single time a weapon was drawn, I think it was automatically used.
Immediately.
Yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, we've got a SMG. Okay, I'll shoot that person. But yeah, no, it was. Go for it, Nick. What's up?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the chance to play it now that I'm back.
Yeah. So yeah, if you like sort of like a board game version of Mario Kart, because it really does play like that, REM Racer.
Very cool.
Okay, and with that, we're going to just quickly move on to our community announcements. So,
have we got the slides up?
yep, no problem.
Just making sure that the people can follow along at home if they're watching.
Oh no, it's right there. Boom.
Well, you get that up. We are making a change to our gaming challenges this year. Previously, they have been monthly challenges that we gave away blisters for, but partly due to the quasi-retirement of blisters and going to small boxes with CB, we're going to be extending them and making them quarterly challenges and rewarding with small boxes similar to that are with our hobby challenge. So we'll have one of each for each quarter.
Yeah, so it's still gonna be sort of yeah, right. You put your submission in the hat, randomly picked, but it's just gonna be 2 quarterly challenges: a gaming one, a hobby one, um, each quarter.
Exactly.
Yep.
So without any further ado, we can announce our 2 quarterly challenges. First for quarter one of 2024. The first one is for the gaming challenge, which is that you're going to make them an offer they can't refuse. Thank you. With our transition to longer gaming challenge, we'd like to set a real challenge for everybody here. So we, like crime in Hollywood's version of New York, we want you to get organized. We at Lost Lieutenant want you to plan and run an event for your local players and tell us about your experience. You can tell us about the event. If you can tell us about the event and give it a real fun name, I'll even put it in our socials for people all across the world to see and maybe come along if they're in the area. It doesn't have to be an ITS event, just a group of people playing 3 games in your garage will fulfill the requirements of this challenge. Give this a chance to run some custom missions, resilience ops, reinforcements, free play, mercenaries, limited insertion. These are all some of the many ways we all like to enjoy Infinity, so bust them out too. Submit your entries to us at lostlieutenant@gmail.com as a Google Doc, and one random winner will be selected to win a small box set of their choice from a yet to be determined retailer.
Yes, with the sad news, unfortunately, that one of the pillars of our community, TSI, are closing up shop soon. Just as like a personal note for this particular challenge, I'd love to hear about our international players, Europe, US, wherever you are on the continents of the world, because we've obviously had a lot of a sort of uptick in our foreign foreign listeners. I'd like to hear about what you guys get up to your community. I know that here in Melbourne we have plenty of like little round robins between like 4 friends or something like that.
We do, and it's good. It's good fun tournament practice. So,
Yeah.
like big tournament practice. So we get some engagement in, build those communities. We'd like to see more people playing this game. And our quarter one hobby challenge is New Year, New Me. The new year means the next round of tournaments, which, if you're anything like this guy, means you're starting a new army or a new project. So this quarter, we want to run a free form challenge. Show us something that you've started and finished this year, this quarter. Is it a model you're excited to use this year, a display board to show off in front of your Silver Surfer friends, or even a building or table that you'd like to dominate on? We want to see it. I've got to start painting more Caledonians, so I'll put some progress shots on the socials for everybody to see. My painting is awful. I hope to get better. Send your finished entry along with any progress pictures at a Google Doc to us at lostoflieutenant@gmail.com.
Well, you know the best way to get better at painting, Josh, right?
Apparently, it's to paint more.
Yes.
Which look, I doubt. I know.
Everybody, send Josh your tutorials on how to paint tartan.
No, yes, please. We're gonna bust out some paint pens and draw that shit on.
Yeah. Okay, so with our quarterly challenges out of the way, we're just going to go through some of our local events. Again, just to remind our listeners, if you have an event that's running in Australia, internationally, we don't care. We want to promote this game as much as possible. Send us an email at lostoflieutenant@gmail.com, and we'll try and put it into our next episode. So give us about a month, 2 weeks notice, right? And you probably are going to get a shout out on the next episode. So the first event that we're going to go through is Arkfinity. Ark 40k has been a premier 40k event for the last several years, and they are turning it into a convention for all things wargaming. So Kev and the folks at Melbourne Wargaming have put together a 2-dayer at ArkFest 2024. The dates are the 27th to the 28th of April at Sandown Racecourse. The missions are Superiority, Frostbite, Acquisition, Mind Wipe, and the What's the type of missions called? The slightly smaller ones.
Direct action.
Yeah,
Direct
direct
action.
action
Yep.
mission Cutthroat.
So superiority is also a direct action mission.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry, I'm thinking
Yes.
Supremacy. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's yeah,
It's very similar.
it is.
Just remember, like all good 40k events, this one has a painter requirement. So normally, Infinity events have no
Painting
painting requirement.
encouragement.
Right. Yeah, but you can just rock up like this guy does with fucking Silver Surfers. However, for Arc Infinity, like the requirement is sort of the 3 colors and a base. So they'll keep they'll regularly schedule. We are regularly scheduling hobby nights on our Discord. So hopefully that'll help you guys get motivated to get painted for Arc Infinity. The tickets are available at the ArcFest website, which we will put in the description of this episode.
To clarify, that would be Sandown Racecourse in Melbourne, correct?
That is correct. Yes, Sandown
Yes. Okay.
Racecourse in Melbourne.
Since you did not mention that one.
Oh, is it? I what like I'll be honest.
Probably there's a Sandown Racecourse elsewhere in the world. There are lots of places in the world, Jacob. And that's my
What are
fault.
you talking
I
about?
read
I
it.
only know of one continent.
There's only one place in the world.
Yes, Sandown Racecourse, Melbourne.
And the next one we're going to shout out today is Border Bash, which is another Melbourne Wargaming Incorporated and other Australian Infinity enthusiasts baby. Border Bash, it's a spiritual successor to the beloved and much missed Nova Corps. When it'll be the 8th and 9th of June in 2024, which is the King's birthday long weekend here in some states of Australia. Where the Mirrabina Community Centre, which is in Lavington in New South Wales, just outside of Albury, the border town between New South Wales and Victoria. It'll be 5 rounds of Affinity across 2 days. The missions are Power Pack, Acquisition, Evacuation, Frontline, and Supplies. Early bird tickets are $75, and see the Facebook event for more details.
Bloody Power Pack. I haven't seen that one since I started playing, because that's the one with the weird deployment, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
The 2 blocks.
I think the only one left that has a weird deployment.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
so. 2 acquisition across 2 events in almost as many months.
Yeah.
So we better be real good at acquisition by the end of this year. I know that last time I played acquisition, I put my opponent in retreat, and it was a 4-all draw.
Oops.
Oops.
Good work, Josh.
I like Achilles. I went into a frenzy and used Achilles to kill everything on the
You're turning into Arthur. Nick had to selfishly leave the Infinity community to take care of his 2 beautiful daughters. You're turning into
Joshy no breaks. I'm taking over the title.
Yeah, exactly. You're turning into the person who puts people in retreat and loses matches because of it.
Yeah. I've only drawn matches because putting into retreat, and they've both been at BCBs.
Oh, you're gonna have to try harder. I'm pretty sure Nick has lost one because he put them in retreat.
Well, yeah, that's fine. We're all showing our face, Kevin. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, and lastly, on the announcements, the Patreon plug. Just remember that if you like what we do and want to support us, you can do so for $3 a month at patreon.com/lossoflieutenant. If you can't commit financially to support us, we get it. Times are tough at the moment. That cosy lever is pretty big. Just let Aleph know you like us by liking, following, and leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts, even on YouTube as well. Join our Discord, invite link in the episode description.
So, on to the main topic.
On to the main topic.
Sorry. So, Cancon was last weekend. And next slide.
Oh yeah, I'm here. Mission line up. The mission line up.
So, yep. As mentioned, Josh and Jacob were there. Jacob brought his Bakunin and Josh brought his vanilla combined. I went overseas and got married, so I was not at Cancon. The mission lineup for CanCon, as a reminder, was unmasking, Bpong, countermeasures, armory, and last launch. So, want to go into your lists first, Jacob?
Yeah, cool. So I had sort of I did sort of challenge myself to lean into the Moira, like Reverend sort of side of Bakunin. Hence why you're not seeing any Riot Girls, why you're not seeing any Taskmasters on any of these sort of things. Of course, you've still got moderators and Morlocks and Chimeras. I just don't think you can do Bakunin without them. So first list, creatively called Backhold, because I can't think of interesting names for my lists, is just Mother Agatha, a Reverend Moira with sniper rifle, Reverend Moira with heavy machine gun, a Reverend Custodia with boarding shotgun, a Cenobite with chain rifle, a moderator, another moderator who's my lieutenant, a Stempazond, which is sort of your toolbox forward observer bot, and a Chimera with 3 Pupniks. Which I'm now running because I'm so used to running 2 of them. I never put down 3 Pupniks on the board. It then had another moderator in group 2, a clockmaker, and a Vostok. So this created like a small Harris, with the Vostok being the wild card and the moderator being sort of the glue that holds that together. Bakunin are lucky enough to be able to carry the clockmaker in those in that link, as well as Salute, Evo Hacker, and 2 Morlocks. This list I was pretty happy with. I think and I did try sort of that 9-6 split, which I'd been sort of against for a while. For no other reason than I kind of like that 10-5. However, because of the way that these missions were, I needed, especially last launch and Bpong, I needed the spread of specialists. So to have the clockmaker in one group, have my big team with Mother Agatha and the Reverend in another team, and the Stemper as well in another group. So in this case, I went with the 9-6 split with the Salute there for 2 reasons. A, to provide an extra order in the missions that did provide the extra order to the EvoBot, as well as allowing, if I had to, which I never did, to allow the Vostok to get the firewall with Fairy Dust. This was really good, especially in Armory. It sort of created a very interesting puzzle for my opponent. But it was admittedly my least used list, because there was only 2 really like hold necessary missions, which is Bpong and Armory. Onto my other list, again unimaginatively called Unmasking. It had a Chimera with 2 Pupniks, the Stigmaton, Kusanagi with the Spitfire, the Reverend Custodia Hacking Device Plus with Combi Rifle instead of the boarding shotgun in the last list, Mother Agatha with the Vulcan Shotgun, a moderator, Fiddler with a Zonbot attached to it, and another moderator. Then I had a Morlock, a Salute, a Chimera with 2 Pupniks, another Morlock moderator, and then another moderator, which was my lieutenant.
Any reason why you didn't take the jackpots on Fiddler? I know I'm jumping ahead here a little bit.
At just points. Literally just
actually,
points.
that was my question I was going to ask, because in our Pimp My List episodes, we had discussed some about running Fiddler with and without her jackbots. Running her with jackbots, she becomes a bigger target. Running her without, she's now more viable as a specialist to go push buttons, because people aren't going to immediately take her out from jackbots. How did you? Was it just points thing then, I guess, or did you have a reason for running her that way?
Yeah, it was just It was just points. She wasn't. She was. So she's mainly there to be able to heal the stigmaton, but she's
Mhm.
also there for last launch because she's quick, because she's got a decent dodge, immunity to crit, no winding cap,
Mhm.
all that sort of thing. It means that if I need to, she's able to get up to the like terminals to get her ticket,
Mhm.
and then go into the terminal and zip out. That
Mhm.
6-2 move really helps with also getting into the last launch armory.
Mhm.
The
And
super jump
pulling
as well would probably be great.
Super Jump or Climbing Plus. I don't remember which one.
She's got
It's just
super jump when she's alone, climbing plus if she's got if her jackpots.
Yeah.
and she is 6'4". Thank you, Kevin.
Ah,
Yes.
6-4. Yeah.
She zips along on her uni wheel.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I didn't have the jackpots was just yeah
Okay.
because she didn't yeah her jackpots was just because she didn't have they didn't have the points to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, this list did well in unmasking. It did well. I wasn't expecting to use this in last launch, but I think during the road to BCB, I used this particular list in last launch because I realized it could actually do it.
Road to Cancon.
What I say, BCB? God damn it!
It's
I
always
swear.
the road to BCP. We're permanently on the road to BCB, but
Yeah,
Only off by 6 months.
just having a bloody stroke right now. Can't remember whether it's REMs. Can't remember whether it's REMs or tags. Can't remember whether it's BCB or CanCon. On road to CanCon, I took a chance and used this as my list for last launch. Where originally I was going to use the other one because I was thinking, oh, I'll have a list that can hold the center thing at the end really well. But then realize it's 1 point, and I'd rather have a bunch of specialists that are really quick or really well defended that can run around the board, grab a ticket, and pull themselves out.
Mhm.
this
The other thing with this list is that it can alpha a lot better.
enough are really hard.
Yeah, but
Um,
the two chimeras with two pupniks um, puts a lot of people on the back foot.
I bet it does. Just a quick question. Um, how are you finding running this kind of Bakunin list over the standard Riot Girls? What is it that attracts you to the Moiras over the Riot Girls?
I mean, as boring as the answer sounds, it's pretty much just math. Most of the time, that mimetism neg 6 is going to win you um, roll off at like the face to face rolls.
So correct me if I'm wrong, all of the observance side of Bakunin rock that, well, the main big profiles in it rock that mimetism neg 6
Yeah,
as a
so
defensive.
every single, I think almost every single like reverend or just observance unit has some level of mimetism. The nuns have the neg 6. Everyone else has mimetism. Sorry, it's neg 3. So even the penitent, which is the big S5, has mimetism. The sin eater has mimetism, as well as the orphan has mimetism. So yeah, if you're facing any observant unit, it has some level of mimetism. Um, that's pretty much it. Like I said, it was kind of a challenge. Like I really liked the nuns, even before they came out. And now when they got the points rejiggering, they've got like the profile changed a little bit. Um, I just was having a good time with them. They, but they are, and they do have the same armor as Riot Girls, so they kind of have the same potential to I should say survive a hit. Of course, having one wound over having two wounds, being religious over having courage. I think the Riot Girls might have, might not.
Probably the heavy infantry, right?
Yeah, but not every single heavy infantry has them. Actually, I didn't know I had it open. Riot Girls, yeah, they don't have courage.
What? Crazy.
Yeah. I suppose the idea is that if you had like a riot girl missile launcher and a reverend sniper looking at each other, and ignoring the extra burst for being inactive, the reverend has a slightly better chance of winning that face to face. And that slightly better chance was the only reason I really ignored the riot girls for now. There's not I've had this conversation with a podcast friend Tristan. There's nothing wrong with the riot girls. They're not the Moiras are not necessarily better than the riot girls. They're just different, and technically have a better chance of disadvantaging your opponent than the riot girls do. But at the same time, there's a chance that there's a bigger chance that the Moiras fold under like sustained fire
Yeah.
than the riot girls. The other thing is the riot girls, if you decide to dodge, you're like, I want to dodge on 16s, right? Which is incredible. The only other thing is that the riot girl, like Spitfire and rocket launcher, have no other weapons. Like they've got pistols, but that's it. They've got their main weapon, and then so nothing else. So once you have to start pushing up the board with the missile launcher, you can't keep using that missile launcher because you're quickly going to get into zeros or -3 range bands.
So they're,
Whereas
they're very lean profiles that don't have like a template weapon like the Moiras do, right?
yeah, exactly. Which again makes sense. You know, the missile launch is only what, like 33 points or something? 32
32.
points. So it makes
Most of those
sense.
points are in armor 3 and an extra wound.
Yeah, so it makes sense that they don't have the extra things. But that was my other concern, is that they would that people would walk up real close to the missile launcher. I'd have no recourse but to try and pistol them, and it wouldn't work. And then they'd walk up like even closer to the Spitfire, same sort of thing. All my SWCs suddenly disappeared at the very least, and I did have it happen. At the very least, Moiras can go, I'll zap at you, and if you do nothing, you get isolated, and that was your one chance of doing something to my fire team. The riot girls don't have that. As well as the riot girls, obviously heavy infantry, hackable. You can make the argument because they've got the tin bot. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right.
Hey, on to Josh. What list did you bring?
Like Jacob, I'm very creative with my list names. So I brought Vanilla Combined. My first list, which you can see up there, is called Skiakin version 5 because that's how I name my lists. Well, especially when testing them, and I just couldn't come up with a fun name for this one. It has some weird things in it. This is a bit of a strange one for other combined armies to wrap their heads around. It has Skiavorus in it. What? Who?
What is that?
Why? Who? What? So I adore this list. I put a lot of games into it, practicing it, and tweaked it a lot, as you can see by the version 5. It had a fairly high win rate going into Cancon as well, which was a nice feeling. I wanted to project a little bit of hacking / close assault dominance in with combined. However, the newer points constraints on CA, which will forever be known as the Great Post Nova Core Avatar nerf, meant that the typical anathematic hacker, the big S6 heavy infantry that's mimetism and hidden deployment, and whip 16, plus the Coronded HMG LT, also whip 16, with MSV3 and the HMG, that Rob took to great success at Nova Core, which he called the list, was a little points constrained and beyond my reach. They also, like those sort of big Rambo expensive pieces aren't what I'm really used to running. So I settled on a more mid-range style, bringing some powerhouse combined army staples in Sheskin. She's got all of Achilles' stats, so she's 6'4", good in CC, great at shooting, brings a Red Fury +2 damage, just fantastic profile. And the Samaritan Hacker, who's like a kind of lean Norkius. He's got the hacking device with Trinity upgrade. He rocks a plasma carbine and a flash pulse, and he's got that chuckable monofilament shuriken there in the Vorpal CC weapon, as well as some newer hacking dominance pieces, i.e. the Dartok, which is an incredible
It's
profile.
so good.
Rocking a pitcher, a normal hacking device, with an upgrade of Trinity +1 damage. He's got BTS 6 as well, and Dogged. That guy just keeps going.
Oh,
The Skiavoros, I took the most expensive Skiavoros profile, which is 60 points. He's an S2 medium infantry with 1 structure and no wound incapacitation. He's a lieutenant with Strategos, the only Strategos in the faction outside of the Avatar, with +1 command token, which is important in the new season because of O12's prestige. It means I can just reliably use my command tokens to do what I like because I've just got that 1 extra as a sort of fail-safe.
yeah. Good for converting and
yeah,
O12 prestiging. Yeah.
exactly. The Whip 16 lieutenant option with Mnemonica means he's fairly good at winning the LT rolls, and he's like my LT is safe basically because he can't be isolated unless by a Emirat or a emitter or EM mine or something. So because he's not hackable, you can't Oblivion the Skiavoros into dropping Mnemonica, which means that my LT is basically always safe. I never will go into loss of lieutenant. He rocks a plasma rifle, a nanopulsar, and possibly the scariest gun that CA can bring, that big old Sepsida Plus, which is a whip damage template, which steals your boys. Hey, Aleph player, that's no longer Yordaros, it's Alderos. Brilliant profile. So Skiavoros Sheskin, the Samaritan hacker, a couple, an R drone in Group 1, the Dartok Kernow, who's a killer hacker with white noise, plasma rifle decharges pitcher, just another classified completing machine, and another Whip 14 hacker that brings Trinity plus a DS12 pitcher is bloody great. A T-drone missile launcher just for some guided shit. An E-drone, which is the Evo hacker. Possibly one of the better Evo hackers to bring in this mission lineup because of the fact that it has a combi rifle and it's 6'4" and it's S3, so it's smaller than everybody else's basically. It has a gun. It's great. A Liberto, who's just a staple in the faction, in most factions. Group 2 consists of 2 Data Rousey, an R drone, which is the flash pulse bot, and 2 Tagers, which I like to call my little guided missiles. And list 2 was potentially a more standard-ish combined army list that you'd sort of think. I really thought that my list 1 couldn't handle mimetism very well. And I had a bunch of people berating me for not taking Norkius, who is also, like Sheskin, just incredible. That CC 25 and CC attack +1 burst outside of martial arts means that you can get around things like Natural Born Warrior quite easily.
And possibly the worst weapons to have for Protheon, which is the EMCCs.
Yeah, fantastic weapon. I shamelessly stole a list that Polly Nike's won a tournament in the US with, obviously, as you can see by the list name, calling it Polly Nike's version 4. And then I basically took a bunch of points out and jammed a Caronted into it.
I've just realized that I almost fought this this list someone else's list, except just change the carotid for the anathematic.
Yeah, Lachlan Summers' list was very similar to this one.
Yeah.
There's a few tweaks in there that are the sort of mine. The Caliban engineer fits very nicely into this list. It brings a slave drone. And I felt I needed some help in B-Pong, so I went with the Rasyat specialist operative in there as well. So this list consists of a group 1 of Norkius, killer hacker with total control +1 damage, which didn't come into use. A Rasyat specialist operative, who is just a parachutist DZ, combi rifle emitter decharges with eclipse grenades as well. Caliban engineer starts a bit away up the table, brings a slave drone with him. A Data Razi, of course. Caronted MSV3 and heavy machine gun, who was my lieutenant, Whip 16 lieutenant. 2 Imatrons, little combat jumping veteran orders. 2 R drones and a Liberto in that group. And rounding out group 2 was a Q drone, the plasma rifle version, not the HMG. Couldn't afford the HMG. Another Data Razi, the E drone, and 2 Tigers, my little guided missiles. That's my lists.
Really, I think the plasma rifle was probably a decent go there, because if you've got an objective room, being able to park a total reaction plasma rifle next to it.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a. I agree with you there. That
it did do a lot of work. The old plasma rifle,
just
Q-drone.
stuffed into like in the doorway of a armory.
Yep.
Which
doesn't matter if it can't go in; it can cover the whole room.
Yeah, and unlike the HMG, you don't have to put it into suppressive, which is great. So you get that extra burst.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you need to put the HMG into suppressive. It's also total reaction.
If you're trying to cover the range bands.
Right, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Awesome.
So, first mission was unmasking. Jacob, start with who'd you play?
I played Con, so one of the guys who is at the moment still running TSI, and he was playing the Merovingian.
Ooh.
So I had
one you don't see very often.
Baby.
Yes.
Man after my own heart.
Anything about the table that affected your list choice?
No, it was a pretty standard table, pretty heavy. Kind of a pretty heavy, I guess, in the middle, sort of towards my deployment. There was a little bit of an issue. He did have a Harris Lou Guru Harris with the viral sniper looking at this like sort of scap, but through my practice for Cancon, I realized like one of the big things to do with your impetuous units that are there primarily for throwing smoke is that as much as like you want your chimera to get up into your opponent's face, the worst thing you can do is put them sort of at the cusp of like your deployment zone, and your opponent goes, I'm just going to counter deploy with this reactive piece, and you're like, well, I just wasted that order that I was trying to take like super advantage of. So I was lucky enough that I could I had my moderators back. I could just throw a smoke, cover that that little corridor in the middle that we had. So moved out.
Well, I was gonna say, I'd ask which list you used, but I'm guessing it was the unmasking titled list.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So it did pretty well. Well, it did what I expected it to do. Unfortunately, in my first turn, I managed to guess correctly on the first unmasking which one was the designated target. With my Stigmatron, so it went out, pressed the button. Stigmatron's so good for that. It's so quick. You get to roll 2 dice on 16s. Pick the right one. it was just the one that I felt was the most heavily defended. We didn't. I
Mhm.
suppose that was the one thing about ours is that we didn't really have a spot to put. Like we didn't have a place where you could, be cheeky and group three
Mhm.
HVTs together. It would have just been all bad. So I picked the one that I thought was his most heavily defended one. Um, got it right, but the thing took, I think, 3 shots of my Stigmatron's heavy rockets and survived all of them. The first one it passed an armor save. The second one, I think it passed its dodge, and then I think the third one, or like the second one, I whiffed. So we were joking because everything else, a lot of the other things he had, like sort of crumpled in front of the Stigmatoners that he should have hired that HVT to actually be part of his army. In his first turn, I didn't manage to unfortunately kill any of his designated target. I had to pull back because I didn't want to have anything sort of with its ass hanging out, especially in my tag. I didn't want to have a fight with that harassed Lugaroo viral sniper because regardless of how like 6 BTS with sniper rifle damage, still not going to take that fight. So I had everything placed around to sort of watch out for a Quit Mirage, which sure enough, Quit Mirage dropped down. As well as a Para Commander. So I had a Para Commander on my left, Quit Mirage on my right. I got
And
lucky.
there you were, stuck in the middle with your stick.
Luckily, I actually hid my stick very well. Thank you very much. The Pupniks did what Pupniks do and actually managed to dodge into the Paracommando, but not before he put one of my decoys unconscious. And I got lucky with some dodges from, and I think it was a bit of a misplay by Con, is that he walked Durok through smoke into my Custodia, who couldn't see him at the time. But Wabera, who has +1 to a dodge, so a 3-inch dodge, managed to pass her dodge and dodged into Durok, which meant that on reaction she was like 2 burst and CC. So unfortunately, think in his turn he decided to attack the Custodia, and I just was like, oh well, see you later, Custodia, and hit him with the trench hammer a couple of not the trench hammer, the explosive CC weapon a couple of times, and put him down. Come my second turn, he also dropped down Margot. Petrus ordered into the para commando with my 2 Pupniks, ate his para commando. Kusanagi was close to Margot, who we put in suppressive, so I stood up and just took the chance. Luckily came out on top and was able to put Margot down. And at that point, it was just sort of building up pressure on him. Like the Chimeras, I had, obviously having 2 Chimeras, they're running down the field. Right, they attacked. He had a core of what's the character's name? Like the real French character. Yeah, we go. Brigadier
Jacques Rouen.
Jacques Braun. Him in a core, ran into him with a chimera. Ate him and a bunch of other guys. And yeah, just kept building up the pressure in that round. I think I ended up discovering 1 more of his decoys. But ended up, he did end up killing my designated target. I killed his designated target. I killed one of his decoys, and luckily for me, when he attacked with the para commando, he only put the decoy to unconscious, so Wabera was able to get over to him and resurrect the decoy.
Respect.
Well, it was a choice between going and killing his other decoy or resurrecting my decoy, and it was a case at that point of I had enough orders to try and do both. So I discovered his last decoy. I was like, if I resurrect her, we'll just end the game here. If I kill, because I've done it before with a bearer, right? If I kill the decoy, my decoy, I'll obviously take a shot at your other guy. I think Kusanagi was right there to just lay into him with the Spitfire. So yeah, it ended up being think that was score was 8-2, 8-1, something like that.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just sort of the the list did what it wanted to do, pushed up really hard specialists.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And
So
I love the stick now. It's for anything that's like a specialist mission, it's so good.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Nice. So how did unmasking go for you, Josh? Who'd you play?
Whew. I played Lachlan from Sydney. He was also on Combined Army. He used me as a stepping stone in his way to Nova Corps victory 2 years ago, so this is a little bit of a rematch in the making.
Anything
Yeah.
note about the table before picking your list?
Well, I don't think the table can really determine my list choice, but I will show you guys the table. Because you can make of it what you will. Nova Corps, the TO's got a little bit. They just had some misinformation regarding the amount of players that they had going on. As you can see there, that's the table. And so they didn't actually have enough tables at the event when we started. Thankfully, there was enough. There was enough terrain to sort of scratch build. There were 3 tables to build, so there was enough terrain to scratch build. Unfortunately, Lachlan's and mine was the very scratch built one, and we had a big discussion before the game um about how to play this table, and it actually played pretty well after a discussion about some rules. So the big one was these trees that you can see here. We played them as basically fully, as long as you were behind them, they were fully opaque. You couldn't see them. If you were inside them, you could if you're inside them, you could tow in and see through them, out into and out of, but not through. And once you were inside them, it's kind of like being in a forest. You were always in cover, basically, is how we played it. We didn't bother with like sat zones or low vis or anything like that. But it was just, unfortunately, just the way that it shook out. There wasn't enough tables to go around. Which is, it is pretty disappointing, but also, I think they got a bit screwed over by the announcement of how many ticket sales they had made before the event by the Canberra Game Society. So, not sure whose fault it was, but Lachlan and I had a fun 15 minutes before our game, just shoving this table together. Meant that we had to play into lunch, but that's okay. So it just goes to show that you can make sort of any tables work for you, provided you have a good discussion with your opponent prior to the game about.
I mean, this almost feels like
making
those
sure that-
pictures we see of like US tables that have like 4 buildings.
Now, I'm
It's
curious,
very.
with the trenches in the middle, I can't really see from the picture. How were those tall enough to block line of sight to like models that are prone at least?
Uh,
Or
Let's see if I can zoom in for you. Yes, they would block line of sight for things that were prone. Um, we ruled them as being sort of S1 height, so
okay.
we allowed it to sort of a Taiga to vault over the top of them, which was pretty important for both of our lists. But you could gain cover by sitting behind them, and
Okay.
also the prone model couldn't see them. It was pretty rough. This was actually taken in round 2 by me, so it's not my army being deployed here, but this is the side that I picked. And in terms of my list choice, I used my Sea of Oros list. I wanted to suck some of the hacking advantage away from Lachlan. So I thought I thought the Caronta LT might be a bit vulnerable to um, a Pitcher and Oblivion, which would put me in loss of
Yes.
Lieutenant. So um, I, I was like, oh, I'll take first. I'll take my Ski of Oros list. Hopefully, I can go first, and hopefully, I can just kind of um, put
Yeah.
you
And
know
that table looks open enough that you can probably put a picture anywhere you want.
basically, yeah. So I did win the LT row overall. We were both on 16s. Because I know that Lachlan isn't insane, I knew he was either going to be on the Anathematic or the Caronted, because no one in their right mind plays a Skiavorus like me. I elected to go first, which just sort of I'll just to, like I said, regain some of that hacking dominance. I was able to place I was able to use a Dartok which was deployed down here, or yeah, down here, um, to put a
We can't
repeat.
see your
You can't see
mouse.
my cursor. Sag. Maybe I can do some cheeky drawing. No, can't be bothered. So
Oh, now we can see your mouse. Okay.
you can. Oh, it's because I was in full screen. So I was able to. My Dartok was down here, and his Norkius was deployed prone here, and his Anathematic was deployed um, in camouflage behind this building here. So I was able to walk the Dartok up, press this button, discover his designated target in one go, just like Jacob did, and I plopped a repeater right there. Because I could see through. There was a little gap in the trench that I could see through to this point here. Then I walked the Dartok this way and he declared Trinity on me with Norkius, and I declared Trinity back, and I put a wound on Norkius. Then I kept walking, and this was sort of getting towards the end of my turn. There was a couple of face-to-face rolls that didn't exactly go my way. And then, so the Dartok ended up on 4 wounds here. I just moved here. Norkius declared Trinity. It was my last order of the game, and he revealed his Anathematic in arrow. So I went, screw the Anathematic. I'm going to kill Norkius. So I was like, I'm BTS 9. Dartok's BTS 9 behind this repeater, so I'll just kill Norkius. I did. Ended up killing Norkius. Dartok did nothing happened to the Dartok because once again he's BTS 9 behind the repeater, so he doesn't think that that is true. Thank you, Kevin. He put his Norkius and his Anathematic both within repeater range of each other, so I could pop a repeater between them and threaten both the Anathematic and the Dartok and the Norkius with my repeater coverage. So round 1 ended with his designated target deployed. His designated target revealed, Norkius dead, and the Anathematic revealed. He did some, in his turn 2, did some impetuous stuff and some irregular stuff. He managed to snipe my Dartok with a Taiga, which is fine. I thought this would be a casualty if he was up the table a little bit. And then he decided to sick the Anathematic on my hackers through my own repeater. So I had 2 hackers left. I had Kernow, who was a Whip 17 Trinity, or Whip 14 Trinity, so +3 for Trinity, make it 17. And I had the Samaritan, which is also Whip 17 Trinity. So the Anathematic, the unstoppable force into my incredibly movable objects, didn't go exactly as planned for him. 6 orders later, Kernow dead, I'm a Samaritan on no winding cap, and the Anathematic had been killed by my Samaritan in ARO.
He split fire because he's got
That's-
burst 4 Trinity, doesn't he?
He split burst the first couple of times, which ended up killing Kernow, but the Samaritan just would not stop rolling 16s,
Oh,
which means that
Oh no,
which
that's
means
like
he
crit.
couldn't crit. He had to crit me to hit,
Hmm.
and it just didn't happen for him, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
it was just less and just intense dicing, unfortunately. He that was basically his whole turn, was trying to put those pieces into me, like trying to kill those hackers, and it just unfortunately didn't work out for him. He lost his main two pieces. He managed to play pretty well through that. He mnemonicked into, I think he had a Caliban. He had a Caliban engineer, so he mnemonicked into that. I managed to muck around, but because the table's so open, he had a Q drone. It was very difficult for me to assault some of these positions, and also I had to try and get his HVTs as well. So how the game ended up was a 5-3 victory to me. Mostly due to, one, his unlucky dice with the anathematic, and two, my incredibly lucky dice with a decoy who kept dodging stuff from the Caliban. I think I dodged and crit dodged against the Caliban and everything a bunch to make sure that he wouldn't die to some shots.
Sometimes these designated targets and decoys are like, they outperform the entirety of the rest of your army. They're just like, nah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not gonna die. I'm just gonna keep dodging and passing armor saves. Tag
Have you ever
rocket to the
played?
face. Eh.
Have you ever played? Have you ever played against Quang Shi? Quang Shi are the same. They will do everything they can to make sure that your game is ruined by them having a pistol. Like it's silly.
I mean,
They're silly.
how many times have you seen a battle royale? It's like, just take a pistol shot against
Just
like an
pistol shot.
armor 6
Pew.
thing. Bam! Oh, there's a wound.
Yeah. Any cues? I think I managed to play that one pretty well, but once again, it was just dice, unfortunately. All right, back to Jacob's lists.
Uh,
Oh, that's me.
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So, mission 2. So, coming off of a win for you, Jacob, we've got Beepong.
Yeah, if anyone was thinking this is gonna be like a fucking great story from here on out, no, this is where I start. Like, I got to the top of the hill, and this is me tripping. So it's B pong. I had practiced B pong a little bit, and the only sort of realization I came to was go second. And that has been working in practice. However, what I hadn't practiced against was what my opponent brought against me, which was a vanilla army. So I took my Bakunin hold list, and I was playing against Ryan, who ended up coming second, third. Can't quite
Yes,
remember.
second. Ryan came second.
And fair enough, because it was like quintessential. His list was like quintessential vanilla faction list. That combined with him looking at the table, so he won the roll off, picked deployment, him deploying second, and him picking the side, and I guess knowing enough about Bakunin and like the potential for, let's say, Riot Girl Link, Reverend Moira Link, looked at the table and picked just the perfect side for him, because he essentially took the more defensible side, which meant that I had maybe like one sort of sniperish sort of tower. It was like two buildings with a bridge between them, and I just could not find a place for my other ones, which is kudos to Ryan. There's a reason he came second, because it was just, I looked at it going, this deployment sucks. Anyway, tried my hardest to do that. I hard second him, which was my second mistake. Having not played many vanilla armies for a very long time, Yeah, I made the mistake of letting him have first turn. So I set up. He set
Oh,
up.
you didn't hard second, did you?
That's what I said.
Oh
I
yes.
hard second.
Oh goodness me.
Yeah. Well, I blame the Melbourne community. I haven't played a fucking vanilla army in ages. Anyway, look, a very humbling learning experience. So I only really have to cover his first turn and my second turn, and I think that pretty much does uh the entire game. So his army consisted of a bunch of Quan Chi, some monks, what looked like a Shen, uh, an invisible Haktao, and a blue tiger. Oh, and what's his face?
Blue
Crit,
wolf,
crit,
do you mean?
oh yeah, sorry, Blue Wolf. Sorry, we kept calling him Tiger at the event. A Blue Wolf and Crit Cockrum. And pretty much he just shoved the Blue Wolf down my throat, and followed that up with the Haktao. So Blue Wolf runs down, starts spit firing just everything, and Ryan pretty much sacrificed like a high scoring first turn to go after my lieutenant. So he's like, okay, I'm just gonna go and kill every single moderator that I can see on the table. Um, I should have done
Not a
a
bad
better.
plan.
Yeah, I should have probably hitted them better, which I didn't. There was enough where like the Blue Wolf could get on crates and stuff like that, and like finagle angles to be able to see all of them. Killed every single moderator. Killed the Stemper, the Vostok, Clockmaker. I think even the Chimeras. I think a Morlock. There was 8 things that he killed in his first turn between the Blue Wolf and the Haktao. So second turn started in loss of lieutenant. Didn't do much. I think I burned all of my command tokens because there was not much else I could do with them at that point. There was no point in like hoping for like a clutch 012 prestige. I was just gonna have to hope for end of turn, still having enough orders. So I think on my turn, I just reorganized to try and cover the Blue Wolf from moving, as well as the Hack Tower. Tried to put the Hack Tower down. I don't know. Maybe I got a hit off of it, maybe I didn't. But it went prone, so I couldn't see it anymore. His second turn was spent not doing a huge amount to me. I don't. He may have killed my Custodia to stop me from hacking his Hack Tower and his Blue Wolf, because I did fire its pitches to cover both of them. But except for that, I don't think he did much necessarily in his turn, other than, yeah, I think the only thing other than like pushing the buttons around, which makes sense. Pong is like an order intensive mission, and it's like if you want to do like a high scoring going first, you have to do a lot to sort of keep me down. I did my best on my second turn, which is I pulled out my big defensive fire team. I killed what I thought was a Shen was actually a killer hacker Tian Gao. So I ended up killing the Tian Gao. I ended up killing a monk. Pressing the button to pull the beacon away from what was holding it in my side, so I put it back into the middle. So second turn was a 1-1 to each of us. So at that point, it was 1 to him. 2 to him and 1 to me. Which I did kind of put him a little bit on the back foot, because if he had left my 4 guys alive, I guess, I could have sort of maybe gotten myself around to hold that point at the end of the game. But again, a Blue Wolf just decided to show why it's certainly not a B tier tag. Came up to my team and just started spraying them down. I think in the end it took a zapper to the face. Something bricked it. I'm not quite sure what it was. But at that point, I think at the very end of the game, I had the Moira sniper left.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Who admittedly having the Moira sniper left did mean that I could do one irregular order and touch the thing. But in a true display of how difficult B-Pong is, even with all of that, like kicking the shit out of me that much, it was still only a 6-2 to Ryan.
Ooh,
Right? Yeah. Which is like, it's that weird thing where, when sometimes you lose and the person who's winning says like, oh yeah, but the score doesn't really reflect like how difficult this, like how to and fro this game's going. I'm just sort of just
Managing to
getting
keep ahead.
managing to keep ahead. This was a case of the score didn't reflect how much I was getting my ass fucking kicked. And yeah, I afterwards, like I said second turn, and afterwards Ryan, and I realize now that I think I have to potentially go back and practice. I still love Bakunin, and I think I'm gonna keep running them, but I got to practice some vanilla games to get a grasp on truly having three, only having really three hit pieces, but they are the biggest hit pieces in your entire army roster. Everything else is a cheerleader. And Vanilla Eugene definitely exemplify that, especially coming into N4, the fact that you can cancel the Kwang Shi's impetuous orders. He was just able to fuel these massively good hit pieces in the Haktao and the Blue Wolf. And there was nothing I could really do to stop him. Looking back at it, if I had gone first, maybe I could have put up a defensive sort of position. Maybe run the Chimera into Alpha. Here's Blue Wolf. I don't know if I'd kill it because obviously it's BTS and Blue Wolf still has BTS 6, but at least hold it in combat and then get fucking annihilated when a monk rolls up and he just bursts 3. Oh no, berserks.
Well, if nothing else, if you had gone, if nothing else, if you had gone first, you could have layered your defenses and spread them out more. So he wouldn't have been able to get more. He wouldn't be able to run to one place and then run through your army.
I think the main thing is I probably would have. Completely got me. I thought he had a Shen. I guess I also need to know more about Yu Xing's points. But I would have been able to put out hackers for my Custodia to hopefully start shutting down heavy infantry and spotlighting things and all that sort of thing. Could have had a fight between the sniper and the HMG, or the the sniper and the blue wolf, or the HMG and the blue wolf. Yeah, I mean, I think I just didn't have enough confidence going into B-Pong that I could win it if I didn't go second.
Fair enough. I think I had the same feeling as well. B-Pong was probably my weakest mission.
Yep. So how did that go for you?
Okay. Well, just to remind everybody what my lists are, I was on. I played Rob, who is a Canberra local, and he was playing Bakunin, and Rob went on to win the tournament, so I was his second stepping stone.
So in round 2, you played the winner, and Jacob played the runner-up.
Yeah.
Of the overall tournament. Okay.
Yeah, we're just king-making guys here. It's just yeah. Rob was going to win, and there's nothing I can do about that. The table, it was nice. It was, I think it's a Canberra staple. I've seen it. I think I've seen it before in Rob Cantrell's videos. Whoops, Change didn't do that properly. I'll show people who can see what the table looked like. It was this one. It's a nice table.
That looks familiar.
It's a nice table. We've gotten we had a good discussion about the rules on it. All the red doors go to each other. So there's just a short skill you can zip to another red door. Yeah. It was a good table. It looks it looks dense, but it's very open around that armory, and that made a big difference in our game.
I like these sort of tables that are sort of dense in the deployment zones and open up a little bit in the middle.
Yeah. It makes certain factions really good.
So you ended up with the beacon starting in the middle of an objective room that
That's correct,
wasn't
yeah.
an objective room.
No, we were
Okay.
still infinitely tall.
Mhm.
And we played it as true line of fire. We didn't play it as
Mhm.
into and out of, not through. It didn't really
Okay.
make that much of a difference, but that's how we played it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a good table. And because of how open it looked to me in the middle there, I ran my Caronted list as so I had a gun.
Yep.
That could take it, which arguably was a bad choice, but we'll discuss that. I'm sure that we'll discuss this in lots of detail when Rob comes on for the winners recap, because I would really love it. Well, yes, when Rob comes on for the winners recap, because I'd really like to hear his thoughts about how he went into that table and the mission. I think that's a big one, but I do have some things to say about my mistakes. I didn't play this game incredibly well, and I have some really big takeaways. Rather than run through a play-by-play, I'd rather just talk about my mistakes in the game and yeah, how I could have played those a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. Go for the highlights.
Yeah. So number one, my number one big mistake is always put down a tag when an engineer is right beside it, rather than leaving it unconscious.
Yes.
So I did that in my. So I won the LT role and chose to pick deployment. So I picked deployment, and Rob chose to go first, which I was kind of not expecting, but it's fair enough. It's hard to defend against a combined army Alpha Strike as much as it is hard to defend against a Nomad Alpha Strike. So I think it was probably a correct choice. So in his turn didn't accomplish a lot other than putting a Morlock on the beacon, a camo marker on a Morlock on one console, camo marker on the other console, and his Chimera on the beacon, which was netting him 3 points because the beacon was in my side because he pushed it with the camo marker, which was a 0 killer hacker. My turn, I looped around, put some smoke down, and tried to take out his stigmata. So this is where lesson number one comes in. That stigmata was also duoed with the orphan engineer or penitent engineer,
No,
one of
orphan.
them.
Yeah,
orphan engineer. And I elected to put it unconscious and then completely ignore it, which was a mistake. Number two, impersonation is only one turn away from being a very vulnerable Norkius. With the orders that I had remaining after the push with the Caronted and not taking out the Stigmata, I pushed up a little bit with Norkius, and sort of left him on a rooftop, looking at his 0 hacker camo marker. He then popped up with a Morlock and Discover shot it with an assault pistol a lot and killed it. A lot. Very dead. Which brings me to number three's thing thing, look at your unit profiles. Remember that Norkius has bioimmunity, because I didn't remember that Norkius had bioimmunity, and I'm fairly certain I failed some of those rolls against that assault pistol by 1. So it's a definitely a good good learning opportunity to know your profiles very well. Might have made a difference. Probably wouldn't have. Rob held a very commanding position with a total reaction HMG bot and a core linked right go missile launcher, and I just simply didn't have the guns, or I didn't position my guns well enough to deal with it. So after the Norkis and the Caronted were dealt with by Rob, and I flubbed some stuff with the Rassiat Specialist Operative in my turn 2. I decided to concede the game to Rob for a nice little early 8-0 victory for him, so I could grab some lunch after not getting any after Lockie and Myers game, because we had to play long because building a table. So, yeah. Lesson number 4, it's okay to admit defeat when you know you've been beat.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, just going back to quickly on Bakuna, that's where the right girl sort of shine, as you had the Caronted and his MSV for the most part meant nothing.
Yeah, well, I smoke shot the Stig, which meant like
Oh,
that was
sure, yeah.
slightly better odds to put the Stigmata down, but other than that, like that's all that the MSV3 didn't do anything else. Back to Jacob, I think.
Oh,
did you want to
mission number 3 was countermeasures.
Do we want to take a quick break and we'll go through the last 3?
Sure.
Yeah,
we
that
can
works.
do that.
All right. We'll be back, guys.
Okay.
Welcome back, listeners. We're back from our break to get into the 3rd round of Cancon 2024 countermeasures.
Yeah. So, closing out day 1, both of you are on a win and a loss.
Yeah, well, it's not going to get much better for me. And I don't know if it's going to get much better for Josh either.
Well, hey, I did come 10 places above you, so I must do something. Right.
Yeah, it's
Racking up the tie breaks.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I took my
So who'd you play?
unmasking list this one. I played, I wish I could remember his name, but he was a vanilla Hakislam player, which I had been kind of dreading, because in my practice games, one of the factions that I was having the biggest trouble dealing with was admittedly a little bit more on like the Rama task force side, but the pieces I was having trouble with were like the MSV2 Coage, the Mukhtar
Mukhtar,
MSV2,
MSVQ, Red Fury, yeah.
the Yara Haddad. I was just having trouble putting down anything that was like no winning cap, shock immune, mimetism with MSV2, which Hakislam actually just have a lot of. They're all fast. Some of them are specialist operatives. I think the Mukhtar or something might be.
The Mukhtar isn't, but he's got a different specialist profile. They've got a doctor.
You played KJ Car 2 was his ITS name.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where he came, but that was the ITS name.
Yeah, so
he came 12th.
Yeah, I apologize for not remember your name, buddy. But as you can probably guess, I wouldn't say necessarily kicked the crap out of me, but it was sort of just like a slow burn to him winning. He did win the roll off, which was unfortunate because two of the first ones to be revealed was Net Undermine and I think the Forward Observe Nano Espionage.
Okay, yeah.
And so I was already like, okay, I can't stop him from doing Net Undermining because there's plenty of blocking terrain on the particular map we got. And I can't really stop him doing Nano Espionage because he had 2 Barids. So I was like, there's just going to be a picture near one of my
HVTs.
HVTs, and he's just going to use the other Barid that he had to forward observe.
I think it's called HVT designation, the one you're talking
Yeah,
about.
you might be right. It's the one where you have to do 2 forward observes.
On a HVT, yeah.
Yeah,
Designation.
on a HVT. Yeah, sorry. The nano espionage, I think, is like the neg 3 hacking program. And then he discarded one of the ones that we had and pulled data scan, and I was just like, shit. Because in his first turn, because the list I had wasn't necessarily great at like an ARO presence, because it's designed for the ones where you know the like unmasking and countermeasures where you sort of your objective is not necessarily to kill but to actually do things with your turn.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't stop him from doing any of these. And sure enough, he comes up, he puts down, he shoots a pitcher near my HVT. He with his killer hacker Barid. He then he then puts he puts down the pitcher, does the forward observe on the HVT with his other Barid. So he had a killer hacker and a
Regular
and a
hacker.
normal Barid or hacking device. He then he had the one of the character Coom riders, the one that starts with C.
The
both start with Z.
flamethrowers or the berserk.
Oh, do they both start with Z?
Yeah,
Oh, their
Zalethia
names are
Zamira.
almost identical.
Oh,
Was it
okay.
the
I
flamethrowers and pistols or the berserk?
think you know what? No fucking clue.
So it wasn't important. Okay.
Yeah, but main thing is it just drove up, got into my half of the table, did net undermining, and then just went up to with his killer hacker to one of my guys that was like not an ARO and did data scan, which was what he got when he discarded one of the cards for another one. So there wasn't much in his first turn that I could really do to stop him from getting all 3 of those objectives.
That's rough.
Yeah, 2 of them sort of. I mean, like again, it's this sort of. If it hadn't necessarily been Huck Islam, like maybe a data scan or designation would have been a little bit harder for him. But it's just like Huck Islam just has the tools to, have a hacker all the way, like the hacker all the way in the back corner, who can just go, oh yeah, I've got these 2 pictures here. Bam, I do that thing from my back corner.
Sure.
My turn. I
Data
draw.
scan has to be in zone of control. Can't be in hacking area.
No, I know that. So
yeah, okay, good.
um,
But yes, it is hard to counteract that kind of stuff when you're,
yeah.
you know, you don't have any sort of way to stop them just dropping a picture on your HVTs and then.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I want to preface this. So this sounds like I'm saying that he just got lucky and that's the reason he won. That's not the case at all. I think with countermeasures, it is sometimes a combination of prioritizing things right, having the right list, and yeah, sometimes a little bit of luck with what you draw. Right, and the way that the board state was, it was a perfect first turn for him, and that's just the way countermeasures goes. I drew 3. I got follow up. I got follow up. The one, like the one we have to forward observe an enemy model. And I think I got retro engineering.
Sure.
And I just didn't have enough orders to do all 3 of them. So I managed to do follow up. I managed to do the forward observing an enemy model. And I just couldn't do retro engineering because at that point I would have had to put orders into both my Harris as well as my Fiddler. It just wasn't going to happen. Come his turn, I think he ended up ditching his he ended up ditching retro engineering. He didn't have an engineer, so no point in him keeping that. I don't remember exactly all the classifieds that he got, but fair to say that I don't think I mean, he got maximum points for his. He got maximum points for his objectives. He did manage to complete. I think honestly, he completed 9 of them. I don't think he failed to get any of them.
Oof.
Mm. I
Well done for
had,
him.
yeah, no, really well done for him. Like I said, just the list was just this like toolboxes. I did have some unfortunate thing because he did manage to get combat support, which is the old like experimental medicine test run
Mhm.
sort of thing. I did have the unfortunate luck of I put 2 things in like unconscious, and he did have the Asawira just run up and heal like what I think is like a coom, just like a generic coom biker.
Mhm.
So yeah, there was like, you know, a little bit of luck in the way that like the board state ended up for him.
Mhm.
But the biggest sort of takeaway I took from this is I think I like this list. I think it needs a little bit more work. I As much as I like the 2 chimeras, and it's funny and gross. I think when it comes to missions like countermeasures, which was my least practice mission, um, like what does a second chimera do for me? Nothing. It doesn't do anything unless I had predator. Um, which yeah, unless there's predator and I'm in the right position, it doesn't really do a huge amount. And taking a look at Rob White's list, I wish I had spent a little bit more time looking at the possible duos, because I was never going to use Fiddler to repair the only other thing it could, which is the Salute. Maybe I could have used her to resurrect a Chimera, you know, at some point. I wish I had looked harder and saw that I could duo an Orphan, because that would have made this list way stronger. Right? It would have meant that I could move the Orphan out with attack awareness order. It means that like the retro engineering, I can have this big attack piece push up with its specialist with him. Right, I can be ready for like, let's say when combat support comes out. Right, I can be ready to you know, just go ham with the Stigmatron, hopefully take a wound and then heal it.
Mhm.
Um, so I think this list was trying to do something that was just not quite tuned to what countermeasures was, whereas my opponent had this great like toolboxy list that could fight, could heal, and could do a whole bunch of stuff. Like yeah, could fight, could heal, right? Could do melee, could do shooting, could deal with my mimetism, could deal with my hacking. And I just didn't have the appropriate responses to that. And 2 chimeras, which is sort of the funny thing of this list, is just not enough to counter something like that.
Would the 2 chimeras have worked if you went first?
No, because I wouldn't be able to. Maybe the second chimera could have pushed out, because it would have
Mhm.
like 6 orders to like fill.
Mhm. So I'm wondering,
Maybe
going into vanilla, would you be able to jam chimeras in there and hunt and scalpel specialists?
I probably could have gone for his like generic hacker
Mhm.
with my other specialist.
Mhm.
Maybe gone for Yara Haddad as well.
Mhm.
Look, it may have been a closer
Mhm.
game. But like running it back in my mind, that particular chimera was sort of on
Mhm.
the other side of the table, away from the rest of the actual
Mhm.
action. I think if I had gone first,
Mhm.
I would have been at a very good position at the very beginning, because again, right, you know, if I couldn't stop him from doing all the objectives in his first turn, I don't think
Mhm.
he would have been able to stop me.
Mhm.
Again, it's it's net undermine, it's the designated HVT or whatever.
Mhm.
Right, it's they're very simple things to do if you've got the right tools to do them,
Mhm.
and they can all be done from behind walls and out of line of sight and all that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. So, yeah, if I had gone first, I would have been in a good position. Would it have made a difference? What it would have made a difference is that second group, I could have really pushed the Chimera to do something. I probably honestly would have killed Yara Haddad. That's probably what would have happened. I would have
Mhm.
killed her, and I don't remember how close the other Barid was, but maybe kill the other Barid. Maybe.
Okay.
Um, would I have won out off of that?
Mhm.
Who knows? I mean, in the end, he did have like capture, which requires him to, be in contact with something in a null
Mhm.
state. So my Chimera being in the back there dies, and then he gets captured just as easily
Mhm.
as he ended up getting it anyway. So yes, no, maybe, I
Mhm.
don't know.
Okay.
Don't repeat the
Fair
question.
Mhm. Mhm. How did things go for you then, Josh?
Okay, so back to me, back to my lists. I played Josh, who's a Vic local. He was on TAC. I've played a few games against Josh, and they're always like very close, down to the wire, nail biting, like edge of your seat kind of games. We go hard and generally come out with a really close score. Um, and I haven't ever won against him. So well, I've only drawn against him and lost to him, which was you know, nice. Um, he just has my number somehow. Uh, the table that I played on was pretty bare bones as well. It was one of the tables that was set up at the start of the day. And quick while Kevin's away, I'll show it to you because he was scared of the last table I put um, up on the thing. Which table was it? It
Yeah,
was
I should point out
this one.
the table I played on. Also, my opponent, like I can't remember how I managed to get on the side that I did, but it was just a difficult table to play, very open.
Yeah. So Kevin's gonna scream at
Oh
this.
Jesus!
You know,
It's very bare. Yes, it is. Yeah, yes.
was
Scatter
for
is.
for a dregs table, I've seen worse.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I
this
think
is.
some of
Yeah.
those scatters should be a little bit taller.
Oh yeah, big time. So it was rough going into this one. It was entirely scatter. It's pretty rough. It allowed. I lost the roll on this one, I think. And it kind of allowed Josh to set up a really big. Oh no, because he. I think he decided to go first, and I must have played Lazy Finity and deployed on this side for some reason or another. I think I mistakenly used the Caronted list for this one. I have gone into this playing a few games against TAC, and I have a kind of mantra against TAC, and it's don't respect them, don't respect the camo markers. They don't matter. They don't do anything to you, so don't respect TAC. And what did I do when I picked my list? I entirely respected TAC and took the Caronted as my anti-camo marker defense. Um, so they're not real. They can't hurt you. So I did the wrong thing and I took the Caronted list. Um, and also the openness of the table sort of
Mhm.
and just meant that I didn't think my Skiavorus list could really deal with it. Had I known he'd be playing Core Link of Frontavix, the Skiavorus list would have been fine because I could just white noise the Frontavix and go do whatever I wanted. Um, but unfortunately, it just didn't. And also, my Skivorus is way better at completing classifieds than my Caronted list, as you may be able to see when I flick back to it, so I don't have to hurt my eyes with this table anymore. The main glaring main thing is that this list has no normal hackers in it, which means that when the opening roll of Spotlight an enemy, Spotlight a HVT, and something came up, I couldn't complete any of the classifieds, which was really not good.
We had almost the opposite problem with our cards, where instead of being easy to do, they were incredibly impossible.
Yeah, they were pretty hard. So Josh went first. He tried to flash pulse. He tried to bring up a forward observer scout to like flash pulse to forward observer flash pulse bot that I had an ARO, but I crit my flash pulse and he tucked his scout back away. Then he made a run with a dog warrior to try and assassinate my Carontid, because he knew that a Carontid would be the piece that kind of hurt him a bit, as well as Norkius. However, he was just a little unfortunate. Only managed to get the Carontid into NWY. He took out a Tag for his efforts, and then I managed to plasma Q-drone the dog warrior to death. Because total immunity doesn't affect plasma.
Like, while in combat with the Carontid?
He wasn't in close combat with the Carontid. He was just using chain rifles to do it, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he wanted to get chain rifles across multiple units. And in doing so, super jumped his dog warrior into view of my Q drone. And I think he got a Tager for his efforts. My Carontid went to no winding cap, and he lost his boy to my my Q drone. Just put it down. And then he ran the TM Courier, the TR Urangan bot, which is Urangan is a weird weapon. It's like rifle range bands, and it's AP plus shock, and it's guided and it's spec fire. It's a really quite strange weapon. And so he ran it up as far as he could, and tried to spec fire Norkius with it. Nothing happened because Norkius dodges on a 12 in that circumstance, and he was trying to hit me on like 5s or 8s, and it just like nothing happened to Norkius. It was fine. But he ended up with a TR bot basically right outside my DZ. My first turn, I pushed the Carontid forward, took out the TR bot, and made the same mistake I made against Rob, which was I put down his Frontovic sniper that he had sort of watching the table, and didn't put it down all the way. I just left it unconscious, and I went on to just discover shoot a bunch of shit, which I shouldn't have bothered discover shooting, and should have just shot the thing again and killed it, because the very next turn he started to get away from me by completing classifieds like use a paramedic or doctor to heal to recover a unit or something. So he climbed. He did the long skill climb on the front of it, paramedic, and shot the.
Could you have actually put the Frontovic to dead?
Yes. Yep. He had them both prone. He had both the Frontovic heavy rocket launcher and a Frontovic sniper prone on that rooftop, and I could see them both if I put them into if I did weird positions, because you put them right against the edge of the buildings.
Oh, so, okay, right. So yeah. It's not. I thought like if he's behind a parapet.
No, there's no parapets. Have a look at that. I will show you. Yeah. Once again, I will show you this table. There are no parapets on this table. It is very bare. He had his Frontovic sniper on the orange, the tall orange one right at the back.
Oh, okay. Were you like? Yeah. Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I can see.
So I put the Carontid in the corner of the armory room, and peeked out in smoke and shot the front of it sniper that way. But
That's brave.
fine.
No, brave on him with his Frontovix.
It's fine. They worked. It worked for him. Yeah. So I just couldn't complete any classifieds because I had a shit list, and I snap picked the Caronted Kevin because I was playing TAC and I didn't I forgot to not respect them. I know that you pick the classifieds, the classifieds go down before you pick your lists, but I was like, I can beat them with my Caronted. Because I'm a silly boy. Then my Rassiat was an absolute king, dropped down. I dropped down accidentally into a mines trigger area, but it made the save like a bloody champ, and then rolled around the corner to see I think a war driver, and I got hit by the single shot rifle round and didn't hit my combi rifles, so he died. Rassiat died. And then Josh was just able to overrun me with classifieds. I tried to pull it forward a little bit by getting net undermined with Norkius, but at that point it was like that would have made me have 2 points to his 6 rather than 1 point to his 6. And my last roll of the game was me rolling an 18 for Norkius's net undermine when my Caronta had died, so he was whipped 16. Like it was an awful game for me. I played very badly. I played very poorly. Josh played very, very well, and he should be commended with how he played. He actually came 9th overall, I believe. I am in the wrong screen. I do have OTM up somewhere. Josh came 6th, actually. I'm telling him short. Josh came 6th. So yeah, it was I played poorly, but it was still a good game. He played really well, and once again, it was one of those nail biter, like back and forth ones. It was good.
Okay, so day one's over, at least on the table. We're both at 1 and 2. What'd you do for the evening?
Drowned our sorrows.
Very, very accurate description of the evening. We toddled along to the normal Infinity social event that they book every year. They book the back area of the George Harcourt Inn. As is most of the case with Cancon, most of the field was Victorians, and therefore most of the drinking was done by Victorians as well. There were a few Sydney-siders there, some old friends of the Victorian crowd, but I didn't see too many of the others, any of the other Infinity players there. There were 50 Infinity players at Cancon, and there probably would have been maybe 20 at the George Harcourt, which is fine. Some people aren't about that vibe. And that's, and that is totally okay. It's a big hard day. We can't always go out and socialize post it, so it can be difficult.
But you got to remember that sometimes like the people there are just Canberra locals, so they've got families and people actually to go home to it.
Yeah, and days. They might not have a lift there or something like that. So it's just it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, and also I think I rocked up late, so I could have that very wrong, and there could have been way more people there. But
yeah, you're about right. I was there pretty much second after Dion and Con, I think.
Right.
Yeah, and like we just had dinner and then went back to our apartment.
It was good.
Played a very long game of Commander.
A very long game of Commander. I had a good chat to my potential round 4, well, to what was at that time my round 4 opponent, who was friend of the show Tero from White Dwarf. But unfortunately, due to who I haven't had a game yet against, but I very much enjoy talking to, so I think I would have had a fun game against him. However, it wasn't to be because the player dropped, and that meant the pairings got reshuffled, and that meant that I owe Tero a game. So Yeah. Grudge match at Arkfinity. No, he's not coming to Arkfinity. Well, might not. Grudge match at Border Bash, Tero. That's what's happening.
Day 4. Bunch of objective room games. Starting
The
with
best.
Armory. So,
So,
Jacob,
as you can
how did
imagine,
that go?
I took my Bakunin hold list. I lost the roll off, and again playing another vanilla list. I now wish that Josh, you and I had a game of Armory with your vanilla combined. But I knew that depending on what he had in his list, especially if he had
So who did you play? Sorry.
oh, sorry, I played Lachlan, your
Ah,
first
my round
round
one.
opponent.
My round
Yes.
one opponent. Yeah.
And so I played Lachlan, and he won the roll off. Picked a typical I'll keep deployment, pick this side, you decide. And I decided not to take second turn this time after sort of, I guess, learning my lesson with Ryan about letting vanilla sort of have that free reign. I picked to go first. I probably, looking back at it, looking back, like, had I known his list, had I known his list, I probably could have hard second him.
With
I
perfect information.
Yeah,
I
with
could
perfect
imagine what this was
information,
going this
I
question.
could have hard second him. I don't think he really had much of an answer to the Reverend call, but I didn't know that, and I wasn't prepared to get alphaed by, let's say, a really well placed specular killer, or a like a really well placed specular killer, or Norkius running up into my face, or a Sheshkin, anything that could have just run up and started assassinating pieces, taking orders off of me. So I went to go first. I thought, if I could hopefully sort of create a puzzle that he would at least not have enough orders to one pick. So went first, got into the room with my moderator, clockmaker, and the chimera with its pupniks. So it's a decent amount of points in the room. First turn. That's looking about probably about 40-ish points, 45 points into the room. A lot of arrows. I stuck the chimera in a doorway to sort of block it up, which actually did work quite well. I had to waste a lot of orders trying to get rid of that pupnik, who sort of just sort of cartwheeled in the doorway, dodging a lot of shots. And he mentioned this after the game, and I was quite proud of this move. Is I didn't put the Moira team in the room. What I did is I pushed them forward to look across the front of his DZ. So that he had to deal with them. So they were on the left-hand side of the board, looking across the front of the armory room at like a slight angle, which really did slow him down. He had a Fractor in his list, which is what he tried to use to unpick that defense I had. That was the one mistake that thankfully, right, the gods of luck didn't punish me on. I should have had my Cenobite protecting my sniper, who was doing the looking across the room. I got lucky, preemptively zapped the Fractor when he boarding shotgunned me, past the armor save on both of the boarding shotgun shots, and obviously isolated his Fractor. But the game sort of boiled down to sort of your typical going first and armory room experience, which was I would put a puzzle in front of him, and he would do just enough to unpick it. So the first turn, he got the Caliban into the room, killed a couple of things. Well, he killed everything in the room. He held the room. Right. Very early in my second turn, I killed the Caliban. Again, got things into his room. And I suppose to my credit, I made the puzzles so complicated that we had a very long game. Like we went straight through lunch. Because every move Lachlan had to be really considered. There was lots of line of sights checking. And at the end of the game, we took a look at what could have happened in third turn, and it was a case of had we gone to third turn and the dice were enough in my favor, I probably could have pulled out the win because I would have probably killed Norkius, probably would have killed his anathematic, and at that point I just needed a good enough ARO to stop his Datarazi from getting in. So unfortunately, again, sort of a victim to just I like the complexity of Infinity, where and when you're playing to time that we couldn't really get to third turn. I wasn't willing to sit there and say no, I need to play this next turn because I might win at the detriment of the TOs. And in the spirit of just being like a good sportsman, I was like, nah, that's all right. You've done well enough to unpick my puzzle twice. So we agreed just that like we would end it at 2 and we wouldn't do like the end of game scoring because I think there's an extra 2 points for holding the armory at the very end of the game.
There's an extra point, yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, Wabera did pull a HMG out of one of the panoplies.
That is fun.
Which is great because normally when you pull something out of the panoply and it's a HMG, it's like some warband with BS 9. But this is Wabera with BS 13 and Mimetism 6. So that was probably like the biggest thing, is that if we had gone to the third turn, that HMG I actually reckon would have been really instrumental. Because I honestly think I could have stuck Wabera standing in that doorway with the HMG on suppressive. And it would have been like a real scene from an action movie where she's just standing there gunning down tigers and Datarazi as they run forward. Something out of Starship Troopers. Yeah, so that was a really good game, but in all honesty, it was just the sort of typical armory going first experience where despite your best efforts, I think on his second turn he managed to get Norkius into the room, and I fired 2 chain rifles, 2 Vulcan shotguns at him on template mode. I was hoping to just kill Norkius. He ran up to my Cenobite and just hit. The Cenobite passed. I think he managed to eat. He managed to eat 3 wounds from the Cenobite, which is all the wounds that the Cenobite has to give. So that's 1 wound, 2 wounds, and then the unconscious wound.
Yeah.
And he took 4 wounds, which meant that he survived on no wind in cap.
Oh, rough.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Norkius just survived, and on the second turn, he was able to hold the room by 2 points, I think, because I also had a Morlock in there, and I think it just wasn't enough. Because how many points is Norkius?
47.
Yeah, 47. I think I had 40. I had 44 in the room, I think.
Ooh, yeah, that's a close one.
Yeah, so good on him on knowing the points just well enough. Well, not just well enough. He knew the point. He knew that his points would just be enough. What I meant to say. Yeah, 44 points. So just enough. I was really banking on, or I was really hoping that the Cenobite might pull out, like just survive. Or I would kill Norkius. Unfortunately, just at that point, right, luck was in Lachlan's favor. The dice, rolled rolled well enough for him or bad enough for me, I suppose. That he got the room and it just wasn't enough, and wasn't gonna keep playing that third round.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like your the puzzle you set up first turn going first was pretty good for Armory, because one of the challenges usually is you've got an infinitely tall building in the middle that creates line of sight blocking, and your opponent just uses that to have a nice safe path to the armory. But if you
Yeah,
can get a core unit looking at his front door of the armory, he now has to spend his turn dissecting that before he even gets to go toward the armory.
yeah, and I suppose the other thing I think didn't realize probably until halfway, or maybe like just after his first turn, where he realized that the anathematic can't get into the armory. It's too big.
Oh,
Oh
that's
dear.
that's not a great time to find that out.
But luckily, he was like, okay, I'm going to coordinate, throw a million smoke, covering everything. And Norkius is just going to sprint for it. So, like I said, it was his last order when Norkius ran up to the Cenobite and, like, just barely managed to make it. He rolled really well in his armor saves against. Because I don't think he took many from the Cenobite's chain rifles. I think most of his wounds was from burning to the Vulcan shotgun.
Oh goodness.
That'll do it.
In fact, now I look back at it, I think the 3 wounds he took was burning to the Vulcan shotgun. I think he passed both the chain rifles.
Oh, that's
So that was probably like the one I was like, fuck, that was the best I had. It just wasn't quite enough. But yeah, no, it was a really good game, and I should point out that I had a lot of the both Ryan and Lachlan after the games. Especially Lachlan was like, I looked at your call link and was like, oh, he's gonna put that in the room, and I'm just gonna go and eat it. And then when you went and put it to look at the front, I was like, oh, what am I gonna do with that?
High praise.
So yeah, I think I would have been with your Caronted list, probably a bit more worried about a Caronted, just because you would have ignored my mimetism -6, but anathematic has its own problems.
Certainly does.
So how'd armory go for you, Josh?
Look, better than Jacob.
Only a little bit, if I remember correctly.
I've only gone and done the worst thing, which is unfortunately forgotten my opponent's name. His RTS name was Gilead. Was a lovely gentleman from Dubbo. I think that he is basically the a one man scene in Dubbo. Doesn't get very many games in. In fact, I was playing him on his 5th game of Infinity, which I respect. I really love when new players feel comfortable enough with the game to come to a tournament and just try their hand. Even though he said he'd won one game at that point, and he was really happy. He was stoked that he'd won one game at that point, which I thought was awesome.
We should all fly out to Dubbo and rock up at his front gate and be like, "Hey, game of Infinity." He's like,
You take it.
I'm busy."
Make a tournament in Dubbo so
Yeah.
we can all go. You should come down for Border Bash. It's not that far. He was on a limited insertion Invincible Army list that he one listed for the event. So
Mad lad. Absolute
yeah,
mad lad.
absolute mad lad. It was beautifully painted as well. Lovely. The table was super dense. I will show for the people playing along at home. I'll show everybody what's going on. Notable features. It had this on my left flank. It had this beautiful, huge building, which I'm not entirely certain of the manufacturer of. It might be a Knights of Dice one, but I don't know. Those bridges that were acting as ladders are certainly Knights of Dice ones. But I'd really love that as a centerpiece of a table. It looks amazing.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it looks very Knights of
Large,
Dicey.
asymmetrical,
Yeah.
lots of accessible area.
And this I chose deployment. I won the lieutenant role, and I chose deployment after picking my ski of Orostus, which is specifically designed for armory. So that's the reason I took it. I picked this side because of the building that the people who could see this can see basically in the left of center of my DZ, which is kind of it's kind of a small squat building with a little tower on it that basically perfectly fits an S2 model. And I've played on that building a lot because it's a Knights of Dice one that is that a club terrain at Axes and Ales, and it's also on Nick Two Hills table. And I've had a lot of success just putting ARO pieces up there and having nobody be able to shift them.
Oh, the one with the rusted roof.
Yeah, the one with the rusted roof in this one. Yeah. It's got a little tower that perfectly fits, like it's just over 25 mil, so it perfectly fits an F2 model on there. It's got a little bit of cover there, like a little parapet, a little bit of roof that sticks up over the edge, so you can get a bit of cover with your S2 model, and it's just a Ryuken's home. Ryuken HRL's home. So I put my turret up there in armory, just to be annoying. So I kept deployment. My opponent Gilead decided to go first, and he decided to create an incredible problem for me, which is put 120 points of Yujing heavy infantry into the room on his first turn. Maybe even 150 points of Yujing heavy infantry. It was a lot of points, and I was like, oh yeah, that's going to be a struggle to deal with. So he did that. I managed to shave off a wound from his Hideout Killer Hacker with my turret, which because he unfortunately walked his link past my turret. Because as you can see from that picture there was a couple of walls in front of both of the front doors to the armory that made the armory to be actually very difficult to approach.
Yeah, it certainly looks like that way with this map.
There was taller than S2, so you couldn't just vault over the top of them with an S2 marker. It meant that you had to move around, which meant that the ARO pieces that were looking up and down flanks could actually get a lot of mileage. So my turret got a little bit of mileage out of it by shooting some members of his link that were not the link leader, and then he blasted into a million pieces with his Zuyong HMG. So he put a million points of Yujing heavy infantry into the room, and I was like, I have to deal with that. So I thought to myself, I've just got to. I think I'll let him have the first turn because I think I can do enough to unpick this, and once that's gone, there's not a hell of a lot that's in his list that can deal with the rest of my stuff. So, I activated Kernow, which was on a rooftop, looking at the corner of looking at the right-hand corner of his armory. It's on that for those playing along, that white building that's in the front and center of my DZ. Kernow is on the top of that, and I stood up, launched a pitcher on a 15, rolled like a 17. Okay, that's fine. I'll try it again. I've got 2. Sat back down, went back prone, rolled my pitcher on a 15, rolled like another 17. Hooray! But that's why I brought 2. So the Dartok said it's his time to shine. He walked around, threw a pitcher, nailed on his first go, and then I activated it again, and I killed the Hideout Killer Hacker from under because I don't respect tin bots. 3 dice on 10s versus 1 dice on 13s. I managed to just. He only had 1 wound left from copying a wound from the turret, so it was very easy for me to just go, okay, I'll just take that out. Dartrop moved again and isolated the tin bot holder.
Ooh.
Which meant
Good
that
move.
which meant that Link was no longer protected by a tin bot, which I thought was a good move. Then I was like, I activated the Skiavoros because I wanted to do one thing in Armory and do one thing only, which was sepsitor a bunch of my opponent's stuff. And so I walked my Skiavoros up, very happy, and he'd done something really good, which is he'd deployed his turret in a way and his infantry in a way inside the room where I couldn't engage all of them or more than one of them without being seen by the turret. So I engaged a character by the name of Tai Sheng, who
Did you isolate Tai Shen?
I did not.
Okay, he had more than he probably, because I think
Tai Sheng, the Tai Sheng he was using didn't have a tin bot.
Yeah, I was about to say, I remember running this link and had like 3 tin bots in that link because that's just the way it runs. It ends up.
So his Tai Sheng was in it, like I could only see it in a way that had the Skiavoros out of cover, and then I looked at, after engaging it, I looked at Tai Sheng's ballistic skill, and I'm like, what?
BS14.
His BS14. So I got eaten by a crit from Tai Sheng's Mark 12. I hit all 3 times with my plasma rifle, which meant that the Zuyong missile launch that was sitting beside the Tai Sheng got splashed and killed by the Skiavoros. So Skiavoros went down, took something with him, but that's okay. I mnemonicked into the Samaritan. That was basically the end of my first turn. My opponent moved his Yan Hao into a sort of more. He had a Yan Hao HRMC, moved it into a more sort of commanding position for like sort of ARO slash point defense. And moved as much of his heavy infantry as possible outside of the repeater area, so I couldn't just spend orders on my hackers moving them up into the room and hack him at the same time, which was, I think, very reasonable. Then I noticed, so my first turn, I ducked Sheskin around a corner and shot some stuff, killed one thing, and I was like, okay, I've got to put Sheskin in the room. I've got to clear this out now because otherwise I'm going to start losing this game. I noticed that a Dadarazi nearby. So I moved, smoked, moved, then moved into full view of his entire Link team. He decided to shoot with everything, which meant I dropped 2 templates with my Dadarazi, which cleared the entire room. They all failed a save or 2, except for his dead missile launcher, his unconscious missile launcher, which passed both of its saves, and he had a Zencha forward observer in the room as well, which survived in no wounding cap. My Dadarazi died, and then I shoved Sheskin into the room, ate the Zencha, and then almost saw red. I was like, I'm going to kill that. Joshi No Breaks is going to kill that Yan Hao now. Yan Ho is going to die. And then I remembered that Armory ends in retreat, so I didn't do that.
So you created a Sheshkin buffet, did you?
Yeah, nom. So nommed everything in the room. Sheskin ended with 1 power up, and just sat prone behind a wall inside the armory and sort of dared him to do whatever he wanted. Gilead had like 4 units left, which was his Daoying lieutenant, a paramedic Zanshi, a forward observer Zanshi, and a Yan Hao, which put him at about 100 points left over, which was very lucky for me. He ran in and basically just tried to get as many panoplies as he could to stop me from scoring that. And I think he managed to get 3. overall over across the whole game, which was a good effort. Then I activated Cheskin again, touched a panoply, got something out of it. Touched the other panoply, got something out of it. Then I ran the Samaritan as fast as he could, touched the panoply, got something out of it. Touched the other panoply, got something out of it, and that's where we ended the game. It was an 8-3 victory to me because we both scored our classified. He'd taken round 1 with controlling the armory, and I'd gotten the rest of the game.
Nice. So, second win of the tournament.
Hey.
Woo! Okay, and last up we've got
Too bad
last
it had
launch.
to be against a new player. It's very unfortunate, but
So last
he
up we've
played,
got last
well.
launch. Jacob, how'd that go for you?
I won't spoil it yet, Nick. But so after obviously having not the greatest Cancon as far as, did you want to Josh flick back the list?
Oh, yep, I can do that.
Not even the greatest Cancon as far as like tournament results go. I was playing. Oh, I'm gonna say Kyle, bloody 012 vanilla 012 player. In last launch. So I took my unmasking list, which like I said was sort of the idea that I came across that this list worked well for last launch. And going into 012, I didn't want to I've had probably too much practice playing 012 with the Melbourne community being flooded with 012 players at one point. And so I was like, okay. He won the roll off, looked at the scoring, and took deployment. I took first turn because in last launch, while there is points for holding the armory at the end of the game, it's worth 1 point. And if you're doing well enough by the end of the game, hopefully you can do it such that that 1 point doesn't matter. So I started off the game. He had, I think, just a epsilon in ARO, which, considering that this team doesn't have the big link bonus, it only has, this list only has the small 3-man Kusanagi Reverend and Mother Agatha link. Was my primary target of dealing with one way or another, because I needed to get rid of that MSV2 and I needed to get rid of that sniper rifle. The table I was playing on looked kind of open, but with the infinite height building was decently dense. That epsilon was covering essentially one side of the last launch armory, with the TR bot covering the other side. So in this one, I was able to sort of deploy. I was able to deploy and use this list to like exactly what it was supposed to do, which was just to alpha my opponent. So I pushed forward in the first group with Kusanagi, and the Kusanagi and her Harris. I put down white noise, peered out at the epsilon. 5 dice on 11s, and just tore the epsilon to pieces. With the epsilon gone, he made a little bit of a boo-boo in his deployment. He had, so his list was a lot of speed. It was the Lawmaker, Road Bike, Raptor. I think the Roadbot, and the Lawmaker are some sort of specialist, and the Raptor was the killer hacker. As well as, I think it was is it the Ghost Psyops? What's the hacker called? Anyone remember?
Psycop.
Psycop.
Cyberghost.
Cyberghost, I think.
Yeah, Cyberghost, obviously the Epsilon, a couple of Varangian Monstrucker, Raveneye as Tier bot, Flash Pulse bot. That was about it. So I went hard to try and stop his movement. The biggest threat I saw was the Epsilon and the Raptor. Killer Hacker, because I didn't want him to throw that Killer Hacker. I didn't want to deal with a Heavy Flamer from the bot attached to the Raptor, and I didn't want the Killer Hacker to come and hack my Custodia. So push forwards, killed the Epsilon, also pushed forwards with my Chimera. He made a little bit of a mistake in his deployment where with his robot, he left the side bot sticking out a little bit, that if I went to the very far left side of the board, I was able to see the side bot, which allowed me with the rocket launcher on the Sting Baton to actually splash into his robot. Believe it or not, the sidebot took no wounds. Only the robot did.
Excellent. That's
Yeah.
what we love to see.
But with that, I just put the rest of like my order, my O12 prestige, maybe even converted an order, to get my Chimera up into a motorized bounty hunter, killed the motorized bounty hunter, got into his Raptor, killed the Raptor. Had Kusanagi, who I tried to push to kill his Lawmaker, but we were over 24 with mimetism and distance. Nothing was going to happen with it. So nothing happened there, but she was looking at the Lawmaker, meant that she could throw some shots out if she needed to. And the Stigmaton was covered by was looking at the road bike, as well as was covered by a Morlock who managed to roll. I should point out throughout this tournament for my Morlocks, I twice rolled a 20, which is the +3 Fizz regeneration. Really nice profile. Of course, in this one, when she did go down, I went to regenerate her. I rolled a 19 and she died. But I've still had my favorite thing I've ever done with regeneration, which is you run into combat, die, and then regenerate back into combat. So after that, I'd obviously put my opponent a bit on the back foot. He lost his big ARO piece. He had lost a specialist. Stigmaton was looking straight at him, and his road bike. So he pushes out with a couple of impetuous with his Varangians. Doesn't come too much. He does berserk into my second Chimera. I think this is probably where I learnt my second lesson for the tournament. Whereas this is why, like, as much as it sounds really funny to have two Chimeras, I think just learning to place that one Chimera in the right spot is worth it enough, because every single time I run both of these Chimeras, one Chimera did something, other Chimera just died. Because that Chimera in the first group, I can't give Stigmaton, Kusanagi, and a Chimera enough orders to do something with all three of them in any one turn. I'm better off replacing that Chimera and like Fiddler or whatever with an Orphan and something else. I mean, hell, I probably could have fit a TR bot for those many points.
Or for Fiddler and two Jackbots.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. So yeah, berserked into it, killed it. In the end, I think when it came to my turn 2, I knew I'd killed enough specialists on his side. I knew I'd probably gotten rid of enough points. It was time for the Stigmaton to fly. So it went in, grabbed a token, went to the middle, and got itself out of there. I then just got the Salute, used the advantage that it's an Evo bot, and it went out there. So by the end of second turn, I'd had 2 specialists extracted, somewhere between, what's that, 15, 35, 80, 93 points extracted. So almost a third of my opponent's army extracted, and probably had killed more than he'd be able to, like enough points that he wouldn't have been able to come back at that point. So yeah, all said and done, it was a 10. I think it was a 10-0 win to me. With even at the very end, Fiddler finally did something in my tournament, and she repaired the second group Chimera, which meant I held the room with, I think, 2 points because the two pupniks were in the room.
Very nicely done.
Nice. It's not a bad way to end the tournament.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. It was a oh, it sounds a bit harsh, I suppose, but a failure sandwich. Right, 2 wins
Yes.
sandwiched between a whole bunch of getting my ass fucking pushed in. Yeah, I should, like I said, I didn't want to say it to my opponent because obviously I don't want to get in his head or anything. But if there's one thing that my practice for like BC, like the last BCB, is, I have become an expert at dealing with vanilla O12 and Starmada specifically, and he can blame the short period where the Melbourne community had like 3 O12/Starmada players, and that's all I could find to play.
You've played a few games against Peter Henry and Tristan, huh?
Yeah, pretty much, and Dante.
And Dante plays it as well.
Yeah, so that was a good match. A lot of lessons learnt, and I certainly have learned that while I thought 2 chimeras was the way to go, it's just a waste. It's just, you get 1 chimera that sits there and just out in the open with no orders to its name.
So how did the last launch go for you, Josh?
So last launch was possibly my most comfortable mission. As Jordan has said in the chat, he says I have the best advice for last launch. We went and got lunch together, and he said I have no idea how to play last launch, and I said kill everything, extract Evo.
A bad choice.
No retreat.
And so that's the kind of my mantra, and that's what I did, and I stuck to it. I played Lachlan on, who's another Victorian local. He was on Foreign Company, and I played a practice game against Lachlan prior to coming up to Cancon. It was like very nice way to end. Nice way to end the tournament, playing against a person that I knew, and that we could just sort of banter and have a nice time. I played on all 3 of the last minute scratch built tables, which was
That's impressive.
I was
It's
about
a
to
pretty
say,
disappointing-
a lot of MDF in particle board in your pictures.
Yes, and so it was this one. So it was a Brutal Cities one that Ryan from Brutal Cities has managed to bring some terrain, and they'd actually taken the wrong box from him because he brought a different table. And this was kind of his spare bits table. So they're taking the wrong box from him, and he said that he would come and replace it, but he didn't end up doing that. So both
Are
Lachlan and I...
those table markers that they're using as barricades?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it
Proceed.
is.
Sorry.
Yes, it is. Kevin, if you'd like to weigh in. The yes, in my DZ that you can see there in my DZ there were 2 big things which had the numbers 8 and 10 written on them, which were some of the table markers from tables 8 and 10. So excellent. Both Lachlan and I
don't have the visual. The numbers on those read 6 and 10.
Oh, 6 are they? Oh, well, there you go. There was 6 and 10. There you go. That's how good I am at reading. The Lachlan and I looked at this table, went, let's get some more scatter. So we found some scatter and put some scatter on the table. This is what it looked like after we put scatter on the table. So basically every bit of scatter that you can see, apart from the table markers, we put on there. It was horrendously open. So after we put the scatter on there, I decided to take my Skiavoros list. Because it was one of the ones I'd sort of semi-designed for last launch / armory, like a ZO an armory mission. I mean, I already run the Caronted list into Lachlan in our practice game, and I wanted to shake some stuff up. Or I actually run the Caronted list, but with a Skiavoros lieutenant instead of the Caronted into Lachlan, so it was a bit different. But I decided to run the Skiavoros list anyway. I kept initiative. Lachlan picked the DZ and set up his linked Securitate sniper and his TR bot on some 2 very commanding ARO positions that you can see on the table there. The TR bot was like in the center of his DZ, looking directly into the armory on top of a tall building, and the Securitate was on his left flank, my right flank, basically looking down like the entirety of the board. So it was very open. I managed to, in my first turn, walk the Dartok up under out of line of fire of those 2 ARO pieces and place a pitcher very nicely where it could hit both Lashmi and his Evo hacker. And then the Dartok killed Lashmi and then killed the Evo hacker using Trinity. And the way that I play last launch, that sort of meant to me that this game was already over. Sorry, Lachlan. At that point. But I know Lachlan, he's pretty good at pulling things back, so I needed to do some more damage to him. The Skiavoros rocked forward into the armory and took out the TR bot, leveraging his mimetism and being under 16 inches. And that's basically how I ended my first turn. Then Lachlan ran forward with did a very effective counterpunch by running his Uberfall commando to kill my Skiavoros. As he moved it up, I managed to dodge the Skiavoros into a position where he could only engage me with 2 things, because I dodged it prone, behind a barricade, and against in the corner against a wall. So the only way that he could engage me was engage me with 2 things prone in climbing plus, which meant that he with a bit of finessing, he managed to get 2 Pupniks into base to base with the Skiavoros. Skiavoros was CC 18 against the Pupniks CC 19, so it was a bit inconclusive for a couple of rounds, but he eventually took it out. Then he rushed his Pupniks forward and managed to get rid of a Liberto and the Dartok as well.
That's a good responsive turn.
It was a very, very good responsive turn. So I pushed Sheskin up, put 4 dice on 21s into the Spotlit Chimera, which was a fun roll for me. And then hit the Securitate sniper rifle, killed that, and then settled back in suppressive fire, watching the console on the right hand side. Then Lachlan had a very unlucky run with his A-team Harris. So he's running a Harris of Valkyrie, Senya Massacre, and a Bolt Killer Hacker. He very effectively used Eclipse Smoke to get those guys forward out of line of fire of Sheskin, and then pushed Valkyrie out of the smoke. I asked for his zone of control. He measured it, and I said, okay, I'm fairly certain you're outside 10 inches for the templates from the heavy shock or the 8 inches or whatever. I think are they small templates or big templates on the heavy shotgun? I can't remember.
More templates, but
Small
they're
templates.
eight and a half inches.
Outside of 8.5 inches for the thing, so I'm just going to suppress you. And then he decided to dodge, which was inconclusive. Nothing happened. He managed to make all of his armor saves, and and nothing happened. Then he did what I thought he was going to do with that last turn, which was he pushed Valkyrie out of cover, presenting me with the choice of whether to dodge and take 3 heavy shotgun hit mode, or shoot and take 3 heavy shotgun templates. I elected to shoot because I hoped that I could kill Valkyrie in 1 round with suppression, and he templated me. I had a Tager in the background there, and that also dodged to move further up the board and get closer to his Bolt Killer Hacker, which I wanted to berserk. Jackson's still on full wounds at this point. I managed to do 1 wound to Valkyrie with my suppression, and he hit the template, and I roll amazingly on the templates. I roll like a 15, which saves, an 18, which saves, and like an 8, which puts Sheskin down to 1 wound. Then he elects to do that, to not do that again, but instead berserk with Valkyrie.
Oh god.
Valkyrie's total immune, which means I couldn't decharge her, so I decided to use my DACC weapon. He didn't crit. I did. I saved twice against his explosive CC weapon. So he did 1 wound to me. Damage 17, I rolled a 17, a 19, and like another 8 or something. So I did 1 wound. And I crit and managed to do 1 wound to Valkyrie, which means the net changed, nothing happened. Valkyrie died. Sheskin ended up on 1 wound because of Protheon. It was amazingly unlucky. And that was Lachlan's last order in that group, so he couldn't get any further. My 3rd turn, I spent 3 orders on my Evo Hacker, zooping it up to space. I moved the Samaritan into the ZO to dominate it. Ataga took out the Bolt Killer Hacker. Sheskin took out Senya Massacre. And then I decided to attempt to secure HVT because there was no way I was getting my classified. Lachlan's 3rd turn was, okay, bugger this. If Josh is gonna do that, he's not gonna get a 10 zip. So I'm gonna stop him from securing my HVT. And he did that by running a CSU forward, and I dodged, and he shot me with his CSU. So I dodged with Sheskin. He shot me with his CSU, and Sheskin died. Which made it a 9 zip win for me, as I dominated the ZO, killed more specialists, put more specialists into space, put more points into space, but I didn't score my classified.
Nice.
Yeah.
So both come out on a win.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
Although Josh had an extra win somewhere in between those two, so
Yeah, well, he won the first one.
Mine was more of a failure Big Mac, so I had an extra piece of win in there.
Yes.
The middle there.
Yeah.
Product placement.
So I guess you already mentioned where you placed. Josh, you were 19th. Jacob, you were 20.
Oh, I don't want to hear the number.
Something
29.
death.
29.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
He
29.
was classification 29th. He was 29th.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Oh, fuck off.
So, final thoughts on your lists? Jacob?
Yeah. Do you want to just flick back to them while I talk about them quickly?
I can do that, yeah.
So for the hold list, there's not really too much to necessarily say about that one. The two that I used that it lost, was less about the list, like hampering me and just bad decisions, or I don't want to say bad play experience because that's not what I mean. Just the difficulty of going second in armory, whatever.
Poor piloting.
No, it's just like it just couldn't do enough against vanilla CA going second on armory. I just couldn't. I just couldn't put enough in his face.
Mhm.
To do that, and I don't necessarily think like like a Reverend Moira would sorry, a Riot Girl Link would necessarily do better. I could look at maybe swapping some things around in terms of like the compositions of the groups, but I think they're pretty good for now, especially because the Moiras have NCO. It means that they can use that moderator lieutenant order.
Mhm.
So it's sort of like 9 regular orders and 1 irregular order in group 1, and then 4 regular orders and 2 irregular orders in group 2. Obviously, with armory, that goes up to 5 because the salute gives an extra order. I was gonna say I could split the salute, but that wouldn't help. I suppose if I was playing a mission that needed to hold things and didn't give extra points, extra orders for the salute, I could change that into something else. Maybe I don't know, maybe a different moderator with pictures or something like that, or even a boarding shotgun. But again, yeah, and I don't think most people would assume that the moderator that I'm sending up with the Vostok's going to be my lieutenant. So I don't think there's really much of a mystery in terms of whether that moderator is the lieutenant or not. But yeah, that list is fine. Just the 2 times I played it, bad deployment, and Ryan just like saw my weaknesses and tore me to pieces. And yeah, I just couldn't put a strong enough puzzle together for my opponent in armory. The unmasking list, I think, could use some work. Like I said, I don't think there's honestly any point in having the 2 chimeras. I think that just the chimera in group 2 can do enough work. It's pretty easy to run them down the side and go and eat something important. It's just about placing them right. And in all honesty, with 2 chimeras, I just find that unless I have the most like dense DZ, which in tournaments honestly often you don't. I find placing the second chimera is just difficult. I mean, it's either the cover's not within 12, or I have to start grouping things up too much, and I'm just afraid of like a rocket launcher or a missile launcher or some sort of template taking them out. The other thing is, yeah, looking at that duo of a stigmaton and an orphan, the way that this list is supposed to work, that would have been infinitely better. Is to just replace Fiddler with that orphan. I'm pretty sure that like saves me 6 points, which can go to do upgrade something else.
We don't need the Zonbot either, so you're saving 3 points there as well.
No, that's why I'm saying 6 points, because I think the engineer is 25, and then I don't need the Zonbot, so that's another 3 points.
Yeah, nice.
That, or of course, if I get rid of that Chimera, it's obviously an upgrade to Fiddler to have the jackpots, which would have honestly, I don't know, probably would have helped in some sort of mission. But yeah, so I'm fine with the hold. I actually really like that list. The unmasking one needs a bit of tweaking.
Nice.
Again, in missions where the salute doesn't, the sort of Evobot doesn't give extra orders, because that's actually an eight. That's a 8-5, 8-6 split. I think I would split that salute just to 2 flash pulse spots.
Nice. How about your list, Josh?
Um,
How'd you feel after them? How did you feel about them after the event?
I felt like my Coronta list underperformed and my Skiavorus list overperformed. But then again, I lost 2 games with the Coronta and I won 3 games with the Skiavorus list. So,
Yeah, that may have skewed your thoughts on
yeah,
that.
that might skew my opinion on them. I don't think I would change the lists too much. I'm pretty low on guided, so I could potentially find points from the Skiavorus list to take the T drone out and put in I don't know, Q drone or something, just to have a little bit more ARO presence. Or potentially jam a Caliban engineer in there or something, because that actually does quite a lot of work.
Oh, and Josh, swap to your lists.
Oh yeah, my lists. There we go.
While you're swapping, I'll just interrupt to say that if I had made that swap from Fiddler to that Orphan, it would have saved me 13 points.
10 points. Yeah, there you go.
Huge.
Huge
Such a
change.
massive change.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to use the Sepsida, but I think that was just how the tournament went. I managed to use it quite a bunch in my practice games, so it's a nice little threat piece. So I really like running the Skiavorus. I think it's a lot of fun. Plus, it's immune to fart magic because it's structure. It's so good. I think realistically that the combined probably isn't the army for me. I much prefer having lots of units that are sort of mid-range pieces that can get up the board and do stuff, rather than run like a couple of big hit pieces. I know that doesn't sound right compared to my like Aleph plays where I just ran Achilles a bunch and went but I think the combined is just not gelling quite as well as as you want it to. I think I would have done better at this tournament had I played Steel Phalanx or JSA, just because I'm more comfortable on them. They have the order efficiency to deal with the exclusion zones, things like that. I also lost a bet to our local Tristan, so I'll be moving on to Caledonia for the foreseeable, well, until Torchlight comes out.
So are you finding that you are probably more of a sectorial player?
I like vanilla, but I think this mission lineup definitely benefited sectorials more than not then and like Kevin's saying in the chat, I am very surprised that there was one or no SP Steel Phalanx players at the tournament, because of how efficient they are for those missions. It's very odd. But sectorials were great for the mission lineup, and it's not surprising that a sectorial took out top spot. And it's a bloody credit to Ryan Kirby, who has run that Eugene list to death and knows it inside and out, that he managed to push it to second place there.
I mean, he must have been. I mean, I wish I had like been able to like be a fly in the wall to his games, because it must have just been this constant action packed, heavy dudes running around the board, right, absolutely gunning things down, because I don't see any way you could really play that list that he had. I don't know what his second list was, but the one he played against me, I don't see how you can play that like carefully.
No, you can't. You can't, like, it's a hacked out HMG and a blue wolf. You can't play it any other way than how Ryan Kirby plays, which is he's got one gear, and that gear is fuck you.
He's a guy that sets himself into first, revs up, and then just slaps it straight into fifth and sees what happens.
Exactly
The
right.
engine either blows up or he just flies off.
Yeah, that's it. Will
But
come second.
yeah. As far as like the event goes, I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't think any of us have gone to any of the other sort of tournaments that are held at CanCon. Affinity is average big, like sort of in the middle as far as size goes. We're not quite as big as obviously the Games Workshop games, or apparently this year, bloody Marvel Crisis Protocol, which was uh,
I think that was
massive.
50 players at Marvel for Marvel.
Oh, that's impressive.
I thought Marvel Crisis Protocol had like a massive like set of tables.
I think it was 50 players for Marvel for their tournament, which is big.
No.
It was 200 players for Age of Sigmar.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I don't know what the map was looking for. So yeah, we are, that middle with same as Marvel Crisis Protocol,
Mm.
and so it's always been really good. I've, especially in the last few years, I've had, I think, less and less like, well, just like no issues with any of the people I've played with. It's always been a good community. So I think it's great to go to CanCon and know that no matter where you are in Australia, there are people able to have like a really like relaxed, good sportsmanly game of Infinity.
Yeah, that's a big part of it for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, two of the people that really like whooped my butt. Right, the first thing they did after the game was like, "Oh, I can't believe you did blah." That really like impressed me slash put me through a loop.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And I
We'll
think,
wrap this up then.
yeah, I think that the last thing I just want to give a shout out to Chris Johnson, I think was the
Yep.
TO and organizer,
Yep.
or the main organizer, the main face of this year's CanCons. Really good
And
job,
has been for the
Chris.
last bunch. But yes, really, yeah, great job, Chris. And he's put out a call out to the community for other people that want to run CanCon because he's sick and tired of not playing. So
Yeah, he really wants
if
to play. So
you want to run CanCon, let Chris Johnson know.
yeah, come on, Canberra locals, or at least New South Wales locals, people who are close by, right? Help out another face of our community. Get some games in.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Nice.
Well, I think it's about time to wrap it up.
Certainly is.
Look forward to our spotlight with, well, hopefully our spotlight with the winner of CanCon 2024, Rob Wright. We are looking at getting together the stories that we liked and recording them and all that. But we still got to decide on the ones we liked, our favorites. So thank you for all those submissions that we got. There were some really interesting stories. My favorite so far has been the Akari Company versus a Consentimento one. It's quite funny. It talks about how crap some of the Akari Company equipment is. So it's like it's like it's crap for Eugene, but it works for us, which is quite funny. So anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our review of CanCon 2024. I've been your host, Jacob.
I've been Nick.
And I've been Josh.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.